All right, well, welcome to the June Historic District Board of Review meeting. We have a pretty small agenda today, as you can see. We'll appreciate your patience as we move through things. We'll start off the meeting with doing roll call. Brooke?
Carolyn Rogers?
Here.
Sandy Palmer?
Here.
Mike Pittman?
Here.
Owen McCall?
Here.
Thomas Stark?
Here.
Jerome Vernon? And Josh Wilbur.
Here. All right, everybody received a copy of last month's minutes. Does anybody have any questions or concerns with the minutes?
I do.
Okay, Owen?
Okay, I see here that on page 1987, is that a correct page number?
Yes.
Okay. You have my comments there are actually the same comments that I made on the previous property. So it's just a duplication. I don't remember what I said, but it wasn't that, because that's what I said probably 10 minutes before that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I will get that changed.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Brooke?
Thomas Stark?
Approve.
Owen McCall?
Approve.
Mike Pittman?
Approve.
Sandy Palmer?
Approve.
Carolyn Rogers? And Josh Wilbur.
Approved. All right, with that, we'll go to the first item on the agenda, which is the Historic District Survey update. So Nicole is getting the Zoom up and going here, so.
Right. I think, did we lose Peggy?
Yeah, she might have signed out to come back in. There she is.
Okay.
We see you now.
Yay.
Okay. Nicole. So you are with the entire Board of Review?
Yes, you are on the large screen in our live in-person meeting.
Excellent. So everyone can see the screen. All right, great. Is this, do you have other agenda items, or are we the only item?
Nope, you are on first.
All right. Okay, we're on first. Great. So thank you for having us on the agenda. I can say that this was a fun and challenging project. We had a lot of fun walking around Madison, seeing everything, meeting people, and we're glad to be here providing you with our draft final report. So what I thought I would do, let's first, I'm Doug Kari. I suppose I should introduce myself. I'm Doug Kari with the Lakota Group, and I'll let my colleague introduce himself.
Everybody, my name's Peggy Verrigan. I'm also with the Lakota Group.
I'm Doug Gilbert. I'm with Doug Gilbert Architects. I'm one of the consultants for Lakota Group.
Thank you. So I thought what I would do real quick, if it's okay with you, Nicole, and that is to go do a brief run through with Rusk and Ark to show the board what the online survey looks like and how it works?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, great. And then after that, we have a short presentation to go over the report. So let me share my screen. And I think it's there. Yeah, this is it. I've lost my cursor. There it is. Okay. And yeah. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we can see your Windows file view.
See Ruskin Arc?
We're not seeing the Ruskin Arc.
Not anymore.
No.
All right. That's because I apologize. I have multiple screens, and so I was trying to move it, but that doesn't work, I guess, when you're sharing. So I will just look at different screens. So can you
There
see
you go.
Ruskin Arc now? Okay. Great. So this is the platform. It's online, available to anyone with the address. This is the digital survey platform, basically, that we used. It's called Ruskin Arc, and it is something that we subscribe to, and that if should the City of Madison wish to continue using it and adding to it over the years, it's something the city would then need to subscribe to, but it's an annual subscription. So what it is a planning and survey tool that can share the information about your digital historic resources online. And what this tells us is this is all of the survey area that we worked with. There are 1,940 entries. That was the final total that we ended up with after eliminating any properties that were demolished, and we did combine a number of duplexes from 2 to 1 entries. So that might be why there's a little discrepancy in the numbers from previous survey. But I clicked on the map function, and we can show you real quick. So this is a map showing all of the survey data entries. Each one of these blue items is a form, a address. And if you click on them, you can get a little quick overview of what that property is. If you want to go deeper into information, you can open it and it will show a summary of the property. And obviously the Lanier Mansion has a lot of information with it. But I wanted to use this as an example because you can see it has, there are a lot of photos going with this particular resource. Over here, there's a Google map that shows you the location of the property. And then down here is the summary of the information that comes from the data fields that we entered information into. And the historical summary is listed here. Historic name, architect, style, and building type if necessary. And then over here, you can attach documents to each form if there is a document that's related. So this is actually the National Historic Landmark Nomination Report that you can open as a PDF. And then this is the architectural description, all of the survey forms, the data fields. They pull together this information to put on the summary page. And so the edit form is only going to be for certain certain people who have the password to log in can actually edit forms. But when the public can review this, there would be no edit button. But just to show you quickly, it contains information on the setting and landscape. These are all the fields where all the information was entered, and there's information on the function in use, the designation, as well as accessory structures, the condition, integrity, as well as who surveyed it and when, and if it was previously surveyed and what. There's information here on the survey form from 2002 if you want to connect information. And then it's just saved. And also another function here is you can download the individual survey form from this page if you wanted to see that particular form, and it opens as a PDF. Now we will be providing the city with all of the forms separately, but this is available to the public. And just one quick few more things. If you go back to the map, these buttons along the top, the map is moving with me. You can see the map now, just to confirm.
Yes.
Okay, good. These blue boxes up here, these are searchable functions for the map. So if you want to look at the map by date of construction, it does it by decade. So these are properties built in the 1870s, 1850s, 1910s, etc. And architectural style, this shows you, and they're in order by the number of properties. So federal is the most in terms of style, and then Italianate as well. And then there's a category type of building. The vernacular form, shotguns, duplexes, etc. And you can look at function, the number of stories, and then the rating here is contributing, non-contributing, and significant. So that's, you can look at it in list form too, which just is a different way to search for information. And then you can also look at all the images that are all put together. So I think that's just a quick rundown on Rusk and ARC. Are there any questions at this point?
What elements make up the integrity that you were looking at for a structure?
Yes, we're going to talk more about that in our presentation. But integrity talks about the historic materials, what's remaining, what alterations have occurred, those types of physical changes. Sorry, I have multiple screens here. So I'm going to open the presentation if there are no other questions. Share. All right, can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
There. All right, so we're going to, each of us are going to speak today about different areas of the project. But what we're going to cover is basically in line with the draft report in terms of what types of information are in there. So what we wanted to start out with talking about is the survey purpose and the objective. And the city hired us in 2001 to conduct a survey of the local historic district boundaries. And we were also charged with updating the 2002 survey of the NHL district. And one of the things that we did initially was we uploaded all of the 2002 survey data into Ruskin Arc. And so when we were in the field, we were able to see all of that information, and then we could make changes to the forms and to the information as we were going along. Also, the 2002 inventory had different rating categories. They were using outstanding, which is significant in the current survey. And then there was notable, contributing, and not contributing. And so notable and contributing are combined into the contributing category. So currently there are 3 categories: significant, contributing, and non-contributing. And those are part of the survey objective is to rate each of the properties, as well as identify changes to the character and integrity of the historic district. And this includes identifying any properties considered to be endangered due to damage or deterioration. And also we identified a list of properties that have been demolished since the 2002 survey. Also, the purpose of the survey as well is to be an informational resource for the Historic District Board of Review and a public education tool. So the survey report does provide a brief overview of the historic preservation program in Madison, talking about early successes in preservation, including the 1982 preservation ordinance, the current staff with the city, and also the 2011 certified local government status. And there are others. There's other information in there about the program in general. It then talks about identifying what are the previous surveys that have been done in Madison over the years. And there are a number of them. I'm not going to go into detail about each of them, but there's the Historic American Building Survey and Historic American Engineering Record, or HABS-HAIR. And those, beginning in the 1930s through the late 1970s, have surveyed a number of individual properties and blocks throughout Madison. And then in 1982, there was a survey of the local district. And then in 1989, the Indiana Historic Sites and Structures Inventory surveyed much of the historic district. And then, of course, the 2002 inventory of the to create the National Historic Landmark District. And then following that, we provided a brief overview of all of the designated historic resources in Madison, both the National Register, the National Historic Landmark District, and even individual properties, and the local district. So then we talk about the survey approach. And we walked the entire local district. We photographed each property from the public right-of-way. And the type of survey we were doing is mainly a reconnaissance survey. And so that is not an in-depth intensive survey where you conduct a lot of research and background information. So much of the historic information that you will see in our survey forms is from the 2002 survey. I think there might be an occasion here and there where we did find out some additional historical information, either from talking to a property owner or doing a little online researching, but for the most part, there was not in-depth research into history of most of the properties. The field survey occurred from October 2021 through February 22 over a period of 4 weeks. And as I mentioned, we used the Ruskin Arc online database for the survey. The evaluation criteria. So we used the National Register criteria for evaluation, just because there is no local evaluation criteria in the ordinance. So those, as I mentioned earlier, are significant, which talk about individual properties. Excuse me. So sorry. Significant properties are ones that have outstanding integrity and could be eligible for individual designation or listing if desired. Contributing properties, which also were known as notable properties in the last survey, they have good integrity and they're overall, they contribute to the overall character of the district. And then the non-contributing properties are ones that either fall outside the period of significance for the district, which is through 1940, or are pre-1940 but were significantly altered in a way that diminishes their character. So the period of significance for the district is important to understand that anything constructed after 1940, which is the end of this period of significance, is considered automatically to be non-contributing because of the date of construction. And then there were some pre-1940 properties that had been altered. So then when we get into talking about architectural integrity, and that's where properties are rated as either excellent, good, fair, or poor. And I think we have a ruins category as well. This describes the physical integrity of the property, not just is it looking good, but does it have historic integrity, physical integrity, has historic siding, historic windows, things like that, that would give it an excellent rating versus does it have maybe vinyl siding or vinyl windows, then it would be either good or fair, depending on the amount of alterations. And then poor means there's a lot of deterioration or changes. And a few properties were considered ruins because some of the building walls may have been collapsing or roofing or open to the elements. And let's move here. Excuse me. So this is the map showing the local historic district, and this is the survey area boundary. So we did not survey anything outside of this boundary area. This is a map showing the 3 historic districts. So you have the larger National Register district in blue, and then the yellow is the National Historic Landmark District. And then the areas in orange are the areas in the local district outside the NHL. And this also shows the 4 properties individually listed. And here's a zoom in. So that's the Lanier Mansion and the Shrewsbury House in the NHL, and the Crawford Whitehead Ross House in Jefferson County Jail in the National Register. So then I think I'm going to pass it over to Doug Gilbert. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So there's a number of things we call historic context, and a lot of these come from the National Landmark nomination or apply to that. These are sort of topics or general areas of historical significance. Some of them are listed here. There are others as well. And so we can kind of categorize a building to what kind of significance it has to the historic district or the history of Madison and the architecture. The first on there is indigenous people of pre-settlement, which really doesn't apply whoever lived here before white Europeans showed up. I don't think we even have any archaeological sites, if I'm not mistaken. So really we start kind of with the early settlement from 1806 through about the 1820s. And there's actually a surprising number of buildings that date from that. One thing I would sort of caution is that because this is still a reconnaissance survey, we didn't do in-depth research. We don't always know the exact date of the properties, and we make educated guesses either based on what was already in the previous surveys, and on some cases we might update that based on our expertise and what we see or know. So we generally would give a circa date and it's kind of maybe a decade range. We might say, well, we think this is from the 1820s, or we might say it's from the 1890s. It may vary. We may be wrong. If somebody did a little more research or a homeowner said, hey, I got documentation that this was built a decade earlier or something like that. So it's very possible. The reason I bring this up now is because it's very possible that we have buildings classified as dated as 1830s or 1840s. They might even be from the 1820s. We just didn't have the documentation to know that for sure. A big one is Town of Industry and Culture, which ranges through the 1820s through the 1850s. As Madison is really growing, it's a riverboat community, and we see a number of industrial buildings from that era. Then you have the post-Civil War from the 1860s to the 1890s, which, arguably might be sort of the high point in Madison's history of economic status. Before it was sort of the riverboat era ended and Madison had been sort of bypassed by railroads. So there's a lot of buildings from this era and that relate to this theme because of the sort of wealth that existed in Madison at that time. And a lot of the Italianate style buildings, homes, and commercial buildings date from that era. Then we have the early 20th century development, so from 1900 through the end of the period of significance of the 1940s, kind of a broad range. But we still see, even though the community is starting to go into a bit of economic stagnation, which ended up being a good thing for the preservation of the community, there's still some very significant resources from the early 20th century, both architecturally and historically. And then there is a period of mid to late 20th century, which would fall outside the period of significance, but is still worthy of knowing. 1950 cutoff is now 1972, which, of those of us of a certain age are dealing with personally, but there's, 50 years is the normal cutoff for sort of what is considered to be historic. There is that span of the mid-century era, mid-20th century era that you all as a community might want to be looking at as potential future issues to deal with. And a really key one, and something that is a more recent scholarship really in the last couple of decades, is the sort of abolition of the Underground Railroad theme of history that was important to Madison in the Georgetown neighborhood. And Doug mentioned a little bit where we had some historical information. We sometimes added that in. That's a good case here where we had some of the documentation and research that's been done recently on the Underground Railroad. We try to add that into some of the Georgetown properties. Where we know architects, builders, sculptors, and even others like significant, owners or persons associated with a property, we did add those in. Many were already added in as part of the previous survey. Obviously, somebody like Francis Costigan or whatever. There were a few cases, I think, where we were able to add a little bit to that, but for the most part, these are things that were documented in the earlier research and surveys. So kind of the sort of big thing that most people are interested in the architectural survey are the styles and forms. There's a little more of a breakdown in the report that you can go through to understand some of the different architectural styles as well as the architectural forms. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on that, but I wanted to give you just a quick overview so everybody kind of understands. There's two different things. There's the architectural or vernacular form of a building, which is easy enough to think of as the sort of box of a building, right? What's the type of box that it is? And then a builder or an architect could apply a style to that box. And so not all buildings have a style, and that's something that we deal with all the time in surveys and in preservation is people are like, what style is my house? And well, it might not really be an architectural style. It may just be a vernacular form only. And especially in sort of more working class housing, that is something more common. But what's really kind of special and unique about Madison is that even a lot of the vernacular shotgun houses had architectural styles applied to them, and they're still there. They're often, if they were there historically, because they were worker class housing, people didn't have necessarily the money to keep them up over many, many decades, and when things rotted away, they just took them off and never replaced it. The amount of spindlework porches and barge board on the eaves and other trim and decorative elements is really amazing to see. It's an incredible resource that Madison has. So anyway, let me start with architectural forms. We identified 38 different types of forms, and in our report we sort of defined 20 of them, the most common and most significant ones. The most common one is really just vernacular, and vernacular just means it has no style. It's just a very plain box, essentially. But then there's one called single double pile, and most often you'll see it as either 1/3 or 2/3. And I'm not sure if everybody fully understands what that is. It's a little complicated, but if you think about pile as room, then a double pile, or let me start with a single. A single pile is one room deep. A double pile is 2 rooms deep, front to back. And so a single pile house will generally have a room, a hall, and a room. So it's a central entry or hall flanked by 2 rooms on either side, but it's only 1 room deep. Sometimes we call that an I house. You'll see that in there. A double pile house be the same thing, central entry hall, room on each side, but it'll be 2 rooms deep. And so what a 1/3 and a 2/3 is, what a 2/3 double pile house is it has the room on one side and it has the entry hall, but it doesn't have the next room on the other side. So it's 2 of the 3 elements from one side to the other. And if it's a single pile, a 2/3 single pile, it's just 1 room deep. If it's a 2/3 double pile, it's 2 rooms deep. And then a 1/3 means it doesn't have the entry hall. It just, you enter right into the room itself. And so you just have, of those 3 elements side by side, room, hall, room, it just has the room and the entry opens straight into that. Same thing, if it's 1 room deep, it's a 1/3 single pile. If it's 2 rooms deep, it's a 2/3, 1/3 double pile. And those are really, really common house forms. They're everywhere, 282 of them that we identified. They're just everywhere in town. And those can have a style applied to them, as I'll get to in a minute. The other really common one that you're all, I think, probably more familiar with is the shotgun house. And that is the really long, narrow house that goes deep from front to back. Really great for worker class housing because it can fit on a narrow city lot. It can be really deep. Sometimes at the very back, it'll have a little L wing or something that sticks out, or maybe what we call a camelback shotgun. It might have like a 2 or 1.5 or 2-story addition sort of on the back end of that. And these are ubiquitous all over the city, and as I say, were really common for kind of worker class housing as well. And then if you're in the downtown area, especially along Main Street, we have different types of commercial block. What's listed here, a 2-part commercial block, simply refers to the fact that there's a sort of storefront element, that's one part, and then there would be an upper floor, usually residential, maybe office, that's the second part. You'll also see sometimes one part commercial block, and that means it's just a one-story storefront. It doesn't have the second part on top. So those are some of your basic vernacular forms, and then the question is, can you apply a style to them, or did a style get applied to them? And in many cases, there were. We identified 26 different styles throughout the city, and we defined 11 of the more common and more significant ones in Madison for you. The most common, for sure, is the federal style, which was very popular from really the 1820s through about the 1840s, and then it begins to fade and get replaced by the Greek Revival style, and then pretty quickly the Italianate style, which I'll talk about in a moment. And federal style, this could be really high-end style. The Shrewsbury House with, a fan light over the door and, really nice masonry brickwork and so forth. Usually somewhat classical details, but very often most of these were just a little bit of stylization applied to the vernacular form. If we're thinking about like a 2/3 or 1/3 pile house, it might have a nice entryway with maybe side lights and a transom. Usually then it would have some sort of dental course along the roof line. If it's a brick house, it might just be a brick dental course, or wood if it was a frame house. And that might be about it. But if it's just enough of that, we would classify it as federal style. And then that would often transition, and if we don't have it in here, but Greek Revival, which became popular starting in about 1850 and lasted through about the 1860s or so. And sometimes the dividing line is a bit of a judgment call, but typically with your Greek Revival, you're looking for a more established cornice and entablature. So instead of just a brick dental course, they might have had a flat entablature fascia board below that, and usually also a more elaborate entablature casing around the doorway with a fancy pilasters and sort of an entablature or a header above that. Maybe a little something over the windows, maybe not. And sometimes there's a real melding between the two, between federal and Greek. And of course, you've got some really high-style Greek Revival, like the Lanier Mansion, or forgetting the name of the church, but on 3rd Street, fantastic, Greek Revival church there. And then the other most common style that we found was Italianate. And that became very popular really in the 1870s and 1880s. And we would see that both on new construction, both houses and commercial buildings, but quite often we would see remodeling of an earlier, maybe 1840s house or commercial building that we sort of affectionately known as it would get Italianated in the 1870s as people would get wealthy, might want to modernize and improve, so they would add decorative window hoods, a more decorative cornice with brackets and moldings and so forth. So that was a really popular thing. And then not listed in here, but you'll see in your list, are quite a few other architectural styles, whether colonial revival, classical revival, there's some great arts and crafts style bungalows and buildings or houses in the early 20th century as well. So that kind of gives a good overview of the sort of forms and styles and how we apply those. And sometimes it's a little bit of a judgment call, but we try to be pretty consistent about that. All right? Peggy, I think you're gonna.
Yep. I was looking for my mouse. Sorry, everybody. Okay, I know we've got 10 minutes, so I'll go through these really quickly. This information is in the report, but just a very brief summary of findings. Overall, the historic integrity of the district is really outstanding. Buildings retain their form, exterior materials, roof forms, cornices, brackets, dentils, barge board, porches, spindlework, wood doors and windows, and around the house, many historic homes and buildings have their historic fences. So having said that, there have been changes. Changes most often include the replacement of windows. That's very, very common. Often with vinyl with the applied tape muntins to simulate divided lights. So that was very, very common. In a few cases, the new windows don't fit the original openings. You can see that the window is smaller than the original opening. Sometimes removal of porches or porch decoration like spindlework, the removal of barge board or brackets, the removal of those really beautiful pierced attic vents that are all over the city. Some of those have been removed or covered over. Removal of some of those iron fences, replacement doors, covering over or removing the transom windows over the doors. We saw those that was a change. Replacement of historic slate roofing with asphalt shingles, and also removal of chimneys. So those are just some of the changes that we saw as we were surveying. And as far as what types of properties are vulnerable to alteration or even loss, those are usually those are going to be the houses constructed as worker housing, including that shotgun form that Doug was talking about. Owners of these homes often don't have the resources to properly maintain them or restore them. And wood-clad houses in general are vulnerable to the installation of vinyl siding or vinyl siding now. So those are the houses that are vulnerable. 75 buildings were demolished since that last survey. So there definitely has been some change in the district. But let's see where my next page is. There we go. But we have some recommendations for moving forward for the future. It's really clear that the City of Madison, the District Board of Review, city planning staff, property owners, and interested residents have worked really hard to preserve the exceptional architecture and history of Madison. And we encourage you in this work. And some of the things that we recommend that may help you in this work is to continue to provide education and outreach to owners in the district, telling them about the benefits of preservation, best practices for maintenance and rehab, window repair instead of replacing those windows. That's a big one. Economic incentives that are available, commercial property rehab, historic trades education. Consider additional outreach and advocacy to low-income areas. Those neighborhoods are critically important to the historic vitality and character of Madison. And those are the folks less able to have the resources for these kinds of repairs and upgrades. So reaching out to low-income areas and providing workshops. I know Historic Madison provides workshops, and it's the work they do is really incredible. But for those low-income families, they can't afford that $50 enrollment in a window repair workshop. So reaching out to those folks. Prioritize properties identified as endangered for maintenance and rehab through the Preservation and Community Enhancement Grant Program. Continue to survey properties within Madison, either not previously surveyed, to identify locally significant historic properties and areas that may be eligible for the National Register of Historic Places or eligible as a local landmark district. Madison is, of course, known for its incredible collection of 19th century architecture, but as Doug already mentioned, there's really great architecture that came in the decades after that. And so bringing some attention to those later styles, it would be great to let people know that buildings houses, commercial buildings, other buildings built after 1940 are also important and they have significance. As we were mentioning earlier, the 50-year cutoff of the National Register eligibility is now at 1972. So something to keep in mind about newer styles. And then additional research. If the original architect or builder is unknown, perhaps additional research could uncover some of that information. There's other ideas in the report about, collaborating with other groups or student groups that might be interested in helping with that research and sort of filling in some of those gaps, those knowledge gaps. So that's a brief overview of our findings and recommendations. Again, there's a bit more information about all of those things in the report. But it's, as Doug indicated earlier, it was just such an honor to be in this community. We really congratulate you on your work and your achievements and the commitment that this community has to preservation. Everyone we talked to was excited about this project, no matter what neighborhood we're in. And so we really encourage you and congratulate you on this work. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and if I could just add, I didn't before, for those who don't know, my parents lived in Madison in the 1990s. They ran a bed and breakfast at the Schuschler House, and I hadn't been back since they had sold it and moved out of town in the early 2000s. So almost 20 years, or a little over 20 years, and it was really exciting for me to come back and see the architecture again. I used to love to come down and visit them. And it was a little vacation getaway. It was nice to see my parents, of course, but it was such a great community to come to, and so I was thrilled to be working on this again too. So, and I ran into a few people that remembered my parents. So,
Thank you, Peggy and Doug. Nicole, I think we'd like to just turn it back to you and the board to see if there's any questions.
Sure. Board, any questions? We're gonna put this report on, their draft report on the city website, and we can take, public comments through the office if that's okay. And then the link to the survey will also go live probably once the, project is complete.
Nicole, can I ask if you hold until I send you a revised report, which I can do today, or I can do that tomorrow?
Yep, that's no problem.
Because we've been going back since we submitted the report on the 20th. We've been going back and just double checking a lot of the forms, and just some of the overall numbers have changed in the report in terms of how many forms or how many styles of each one is. I mean, most of it's the same. It's just some of the numbers change. So I just wanted to send you an updated version. I'll do that tomorrow.
Yep, that'd be great.
Excellent.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lakota Group and Doug Gilbert, for the presentation. We're gonna pause just a minute so we can turn staff back over to the regular board meeting, and I'll be in touch with you guys later.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Nice day to shoot our house. That's when we bought our house that weekend.
Really?
We bought our house that weekend. Gosh. We're looking at Vivi. Judy goes, why are you looking at Vivi? Buy here. And we walked down the street. Boom. And then white dog brick street. Wow. That's great. They're great. They're wonderful. The only reason I stayed was because it was Sunday. So they said, the website says it's a sumptuous breakfast.
That's funny. Are you ready? All right. Okay, we're going to get into our applications just so everyone knows how this process goes. I will name the address, and then whoever is representing that application can come up to the podium, state your name and address at that point in time. Then I will have Brooke go over a summary of the application, and then we'll give the applicant a chance to add to anything that Brooke said. At that point, then the board will ask questions they have about the application. Then we'll give the audience a chance to come up and voice any concerns or support for the application. And then we will come back to the board and we will do a findings of fact on the application, which is basically going through our guidelines and deciding whether or not it meets or does not meet the guidelines. And then after that point, we will take a vote on whether or not the application will get a certificate of appropriateness, which will then give you the opportunity to or not to continue on with your work. So, all right, so our first application tonight is 130 Mulberry Street.
Hello, Bobby Cook.
Okay, you state your address too.
My address is 1700 South Rogers Road,
All right.
Lexington, Indiana.
Okay, thank you, Bobby.
This home is owned by Betty Walters. It's a circa 1860 gabled L. It is a contributing structure zoned historic district residential. The original COA request was to replace the asphalt shingle roof with a metal roof. However, during the project, decorative barge board and a chimney were also removed. I will show the photos. This was before the project was started. Pictures on the left and right were in progress once the roofing was started. But the picture on the right, you can see a good shot of the chimney and the barge board. And then this shows what it is currently with the new metal roof. This is a specification sheet for that metal roof. You can see it is an exposed fastener. And that is all I have.
Would you like to add to that, Bobby?
Yes, we put the metal roof on. The chimney, it was falling down, and I brought it to the homeowner. It will take $4,500 to repair the chimney, or that I would take the chimney down for free. I gave him an option. I took the chimney down because she couldn't afford to pay $4,500 to repair the chimney. The molding on the front, that I've got it scheduled to be put back on, but it was actually painted plywood is what it was, and it more or less fell off as we was working on it, and we removed the remainder of what did not fall off.
Okay. Did you have approval to do that by the city or by the board here?
I did not know.
Okay. Did you know you should?
No.
You
I
didn't?
I do a lot of work on historical homes
Yeah, I
up
know.
down Main Street, and I'm all about code. I'm pretty adamant about code. But since it was a county not on Main Street, I didn't really, and considering it had 40% of the roof itself was already metal, that same type of metal. The porches was done in that metal. I know for a fact that it did not come with shingles on it, and I found that it had slate in the attic. We did find some remnants of metal on it at some point of time. I don't know when metal was ever on it, but I know I did do my research enough to know that it was originally built with slate. So that part's I know.
So you put a metal roof on, replaced the asphalt,
Yes,
took
sir.
the chimney out,
Yes, sir.
and you did not think that you'd have to get approval for that?
No, sir.
Questions from the board?
Bobby, did that chimney that you removed, was there a fireplace in the house that it went to?
No, sir. It was
So
a
it's really-
non-active fireplace, and we used no tools whatsoever to take it down. We removed it one piece at a time by hand.
So it's really kind of a liability if you left it.
Yes, sir. And that, and I told the homeowner, if they wanted to get someone in there to re-tuck point it, to relay it, and it would basically halt the project for about 2 weeks. And that's facts of the matter, and they did not want to do that either.
So I think it's important to point out tonight, as we saw in the report, that our historic district is more than just Main Street. It's also almost the entire residential area downtown. So we, always need to follow the guidelines. We need to submit an application certificate of appropriateness. So, I just want to make it clear that going forward, anybody that wants to make those type of exterior changes has to follow that process.
Yes, sir.
You said, next question, that you were going to replace the barge board, the,
Yes,
Trim?
yes, we still have it, it was just more or less, it was powdery, it was just plywood, somebody had routed out with a jigsaw and put two pieces of plywood together is what that was. And some of it fell off, we removed the remaining of it there just to wrap a new fascia metal on that, to trim it out to where it wouldn't get any water in the home. We do have that, and it's been in process of being remade. Once it all gets remade, we're going to reinstall it back on the front of the home.
excellent. I think that's an important feature of that house.
Sir, would you have a timeline by chance of when that might be done?
I'm hoping that it should be back on within the next 4 weeks.
Sweet, thank you.
Any other questions by the board? Any questions or any concerns, support from the audience? All right, hearing none. Tom, you want to take us through findings of fact?
Sure. Starting with the roof, on the residential guidelines, pages 53 and 54. I believe we were told that the existing roof was asphalt, and it was changed out to the fastener type metal roof. So as we heard today in the report and also in our guidelines, original roof forms should be preserved and maintained. I think you mentioned that it had probably had been slate at one time and then asphalt. It's important to try to maintain what we have, but it sounds like we've had several different styles on this house of roofing. Historic roof materials such as standing seam, clay tiles, or slate should be repaired or preserved, and if the repair is no longer practical, replacement with appropriate materials is allowed. Obviously, putting back probably the original slate roof is not going to be economical, and it did have an asphalt roof on it, but did I hear you say that part of it was already metal, or the?
That's correct, yes, sir. The porches, the front porch, the side porch, and the porch that faced south were already the fastened metal on that.
Okay. So I guess from that perspective, since it had to be removed, it made sense probably to go ahead with the fastener type of roofing, although that is not one that we recommend. So, I mean, it's really not in conformance, but I understand why you went that route on that, since it had already been done and you wanted to make it look consistent. So for the architectural features, I think we've already discussed that the barge boards, and we heard it in the report today, and decorative gingerbread, brackets, dental molding, cornices, all of those are significant features of the houses and the buildings that we have downtown. And one thing I always like to keep in mind, once historic material is lost, it's gone forever. You can try to replicate it, but it's not historic material. I am glad to hear that you are going to try to replicate this and put it back up. At least we will have a look at how the house has appeared. So if it's there, it is supposed to be preserved and maintained. New materials should match as closely as possible. What material are you going to use in replacing the barge board in the front?
We took down 2 layers of 3/4 plywood, and we're gonna go back with a poplar wood we're gonna have cut out to mimic what was taken down, and we're gonna just put it back up and repaint it.
So same height.
Yes, sir. It's gonna be exactly what it was, but it's gonna be made out of poplar.
Okay. And I feel that, you know, since you are putting that back up, that is in conformance, with our guidelines. Especially, I believe you mentioned the other was just plywood.
Yes, sir.
Which, probably was a replication of maybe the original. Who knows how many generations have gone down. So I feel, fine with that one. And then, the chimneys, boy, you know, this is a big one, and, we've got a lot of different perspectives on chimneys, in the community. However, as we heard today, they are critical, to, the overall architectural, appearance. And looking at that chimney, it looked like it did need tuck pointing. It looked like maybe the first two courses of bricks were not, at all attached and were just stacked up there. But, it should have been restored and not taken down. So that one, I do not believe is in compliance with our guidelines.
Sandy?
I guess the chimney was not in compliance. I mean, I guess I got going further because it wasn't in compliance to not even come in and ask for the certificate of appropriateness, so I guess I don't see the point of, I mean, the work is done, so
Right.
I have nothing else to say.
Okay. Owen?
Well, I know, Bobby, you are a very experienced rehabber in this county. So it surprises me that you just went ahead and did all this without coming to the board. You know, we can't be in a position where because at some point someone has put an unapproved material, in this case exposed fastener roof, on one porch, and so then that, what, just gives you free rein just to do the whole house with that? That's like someone just, you know, puts one cheap vinyl window in one spot in the house, and then, okay, since that you got a piece of vinyl up there, now let's just side the whole house in vinyl, tear all the historic windows out, and put all vinyl windows in. You can't, we can't be doing that. We can't be allowing that.
Yes, sir. Well, with respect, the house was leaking water in the rear addition, and the new owner had bought it. They called me down to assess the situation, and they had a dead valley coming in. I told them at that time I'd agreed to put a new roof on it. And the way the dead valley came in, it was almost really difficult to get this shingle to go in there and guarantee it not to leak. I told them we can go in there and put a membrane in and I can guarantee it, but it'd be easier if it had metal on it, because then we would know for a fact it would never leak. And I told them, since it already had metal on it, we can just change the roof to metal. Realistically, I had no idea that I had to get approval to put a change of material. I seriously, I did not know. And I know, you know, I'm all about, and I'm coming to you guys humbly, because I know that it was my mess up. I should have knew, or should have asked. But here it is, I'm coming here with my hat in my hand, saying I was wrong. But the chimney thing, realistically, if I knew the chimney was bad, I would have brought it to the owner before that I would even started the roof, and told the owner on the front side of it, going into it, saying, hey, this is gonna be another, you know, $45,000 repair this chimney. But once we got into it, we noticed that I couldn't even guarantee my work, because I couldn't flash this thing correctly with the chimney that's falling down. So I had to protect my rear end to make sure that there was no water getting into this home. So I gave them an option. I said, I can either push it off by hand, and that's what we did, or you're going to have to pay for a mason to come over here and fix it. So that's kind of how it all came about.
Well, how is the economics going to work now if we make you take that roof off and put on a shingle roof and rebuild a new chimney? That's really bad economics, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
That's all I have. That's all you got. Okay. Mike?
This is a tough one, isn't it, Bobby?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you coming in. I think as far as getting approval ahead of time, it's not better to ask for forgiveness in this situation. It's better to get approval ahead of time. I think that's what you'll do in the future, because you're a very conscientious builder. I've seen your work. I think you might have gotten approval to go with the metal fastener roof, because it was already on the house. I don't know. I mean, we can't say now because you're not here. I mean, it didn't come before. As far as the chimney goes, I think on a lot of the shotguns, the chimneys serve no purpose other than to serve as a source for leakage on the roof, especially when there's nothing below them. I mean, you can't rebuild a masonry chimney. You've got to either put faux brick or paint it to look like it's brick. So I think that's a tough one. And I think you're putting back the barge board's a good sign of good faith on your part, using poplar wood, not using the plywood's a good sign too, because you know what'll happen with plywood. It ain't gonna last.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate it, and I appreciate you being in here. I agree with a lot of what's been said up here, but I also very thankful you came in for the face, quote unquote, face of music.
Yes, sir.
So, appreciate that.
Carol Ann?
I tend to agree with Sandy and Mike in that, I think the chimney, in that you said there was no fireplace below, and a lot of those were closed up years ago for one reason or another. It may have just been a vented fireplace and not a wood burning, who knows? But I don't miss that as much as I did the barge board, and I really appreciate you putting that back, because there's a house directly across the street from you that's sort of a little sister to this, and it's got a pretty decorative look, and I think people would expect that of this style house. So I concur with them. Thank you.
I'm going to echo Owen's comments. Not pleased that you're doing what you're doing. I understand you're here, facing the music, as Mike said, but coming in after the fact, and I think taking down the chimney was pretty significant. I think you knew it. And I think, at least getting the building inspector to come and say, hey, this is pretty bad, and, what do you think? Would have been another step that could have been taken before it happened. So, with that, what's Marcia?
Just a reminder, this comes up again, there may be, PACE grant, there may be financial assistance to the homeowners in some of these situations, and that would have been a situation maybe to, that you could make the decision, but also know that there was a chance to apply for PACE.
Okay, we'll accept a motion.
We vote on the three separately.
Can we vote on all three separately? We can. What's the board think? Do you want to separate these out, or you want to take them all together?
Take them all together.
All together.
We got two all-togethers.
Altogether or separate?
I have two all-togethers, and then no one's asking, do you want to do it separately?
I think separately.
Separate.
Yeah.
Sandy?
I guess separate, that'll get some.
Okay, well, we'll take them separately, it sounds like. All right, we'll take the roof to begin with, so someone wants to make a motion on the roof.
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Bobby Cook and Betty Walters for the proposed already installed metal fastener roof instead of faux slate such as or asphalt shingles. Located at 130 Mulberry Street.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Brooke?
Thomas Stark,
Approve.
Owen McCall,
Do not approve.
Mike Pittman,
Approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Do not approve.
Carolyn Rogers, and Josh Wilbur.
Do not approve. All right, so there wasn't 4 against, so it means that the roof actually will receive a certificate of appropriateness. All right, so let's see, the next item was the decorative design work, right? Isn't that right, Brooke? Yeah, archboard. We have a motion.
Okay. Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Bobby Cook and Betty Walters for the proposed replacement of a decorative barge board located at 130 Mulberry Street.
Do we have a second?
I second. I second.
Brooke?
Thomas Stark,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Mike Pittman,
Approved.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Carol Ann Rogers, and Josh Wilbur.
Approve. And then the last is the chimneys.
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review deny a certificate of appropriateness to Bobby Cook and Betty Walters for the removal of the chimney on the property at 130 Mulberry Street.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Brooke, before you do that, can you remind the board what an approve means?
All right, so the motion before you is to deny the certificate of appropriateness. So if you vote to approve, you are voting to approve the denial. If you vote to deny, you are voting to deny that denial, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
so you're voting to approve the chimney removal, if you say deny. If you say approve,
Yes.
you are voting to deny the removal of the chimney. Does that make sense?
Everybody?
Say that again.
Say that again?
You got
Are you
it.
serious?
Say it again.
Say it again, okay. A vote to deny is denying the request to remove the chimney. A vote to approve is yes, a vote to, sorry, I said that backwards, didn't I? I sure did. I'm sorry, I'm confusing you now. Okay, so a vote to approve is upholding
The denial.
the denial. To deny means that you are approving the removal of the chimney.
Gotcha, okay. Got you now.
Yeah.
I got you now.
Sorry,
All
All
right.
right.
okay. Thomas Stark,
So approve means that you're denying it.
Yeah.
If you do not approve. Okay.
Yeah, I'm denying.
If you do not approve, that means you are
Yeah.
approved.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Mike Pittman,
Deny.
Do not approve either way, yeah.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Carol Ann Rogers,
Deny.
and Josh Wilbur.
Do not approve. So the chimney is not approved. You will not get a certificate of appropriateness on that. So we'll have to come up with a solution to this, which may mean putting a chimney back, whether it may be a faux chimney or something. But, you know, I would expect that you work with Brooke on this to try to come back with a solution.
Sure.
Okay. Any questions, Bobby?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next application, are you ready? Okay, 816 West First Street. Hello.
Good afternoon. Thanks for
Hi.
having me tonight. My name is
problem.
Dave Cheatham, here to talk about the project at 816 West First Street.
Okay, can you state your address?
It's 816 West
Okay,
First Street.
just making sure. Sometimes it's different.
I don't want to repeat myself, but I guess sometimes it's necessary.
It's all right.
Just to start out, I
Was
haven't,
it
done
okay, it's okay.
I haven't done anything yet at all. So
Okay, good.
everything is new and nothing's done until I get your approval. And I've been through here before, and I know
Thank you.
I'm supposed to be a good boy and do what I'm supposed to do. And Brooke will
you,
get
Dave.
after me if I don't.
Yep.
What we're asking.
Well, I'm gonna let Brooke do
Oh,
a summary
yep.
first, and then, yep, it's okay.
All right, so this is a circa 1850 Holland Parlor. It is a contributing structure zoned historic district residential. The COA request is to build a 15-foot by 12-foot frame addition on a concrete slab foundation on the rear of the home, integrating the roof into the existing roof and using the same shingles, vinyl windows to match the existing windows in the home, and composite siding to match siding on the rest of the home. You can see where the addition would be located by this image. Also a site plan, again, showing the existing house. This would be the proposed rear elevation, and that's with that addition. And that is all I have.
David, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, the original house itself is brick. There was an addition made several years ago before we bought it on the side of it, on the east side for a kitchen. And the kitchen has composite siding on it. So this addition will be in the same dimension as the kitchen addition, going backwards, going north on the property. And we'll have the same siding as what the addition has, not on the original building. So I just want to make that clear. It'll match where it's hooking into the house. The roof will be the same. It's a new addition. The current house has one bathroom in it, and we thought it would be a lot more convenient to have a second bathroom. The laundry room is in the kitchen. It's a small house, so we wanted to move the laundry room out to this other room as well. It's a combination room. It's a single room, but it'll have two purposes for having this addition to it. I've had everything completed for the building permit except approval from this board, which I hope to get tonight. And I have to get an estimate from the contractor. Can Do Maintenance has agreed to be able to do the work later on, probably August, September this summer if we get off anything approved.
Yeah, understand.
So that's where we stand. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I did come before you once, and I put a new porch on, and I should have brought, I got pictures of my phone. I guess I should have, it looks really nice, and thank you for letting me do that. And even some of the neighbors said it looks really nice, and that makes me feel good to be a good part of the neighborhood, that'd be a good neighbor for everyone.
Well, thank you.
So any questions you have, I'd be glad to have. I have other diagrams and things here if you'd like to see.
Okay. Any questions from the board on this project?
I wanted to point out to the board, the photograph that was just shown shows a standing seam roof. But right now, today, there is a shingle roof. That's that right there. It doesn't look like that anymore.
No, that's not current. That's not what the roof is on now.
Yeah, do you know when that standing seam roof was removed?
The previous owner was Bill and Ginger Sexton, and they renovated the whole house. They did everything on the outside except the walls. They put new roof on, new sheeting on the roof. On the inside, they put all new flooring, all new walls, all new plumbing, all new ceilings. So I would imagine, I don't know for sure, but I imagine they put the new roof on.
Pretty sure it was
They
about a year.
renovated this, and they started this about 2.5 years ago, the renovation, from what I recall, they said. But I don't know for sure when, yeah, that roof is not the roof that's on there now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any comments from the audience? A hello, you know.
The neighbor, she approves of it too, don't you? She approves, okay.
She approves,
Yeah.
oh, well then, we're good, we're
But she
good.
can't vote, though.
All right, hearing none, we'll go to findings of fact. Sandy, you want to take us through findings of fact on this one?
All right, this is, the, information based on the, new construction, and I find them compatible with the materials, the setback, proportion, the scale, and the form, and the orientation,
Okay,
and it's in case 68.
Owen?
Okay, so vinyl, you're going to put vinyl windows in.
The house currently has vinyl windows.
Right, so this is what we always deal with. Once a house gets one vinyl window in it, it's like now it's been vaccinated against any complaint that we just go with vinyl from then on. Vinyl windows are not on the approved list. Personally, I feel like we ought to be able to go back the other direction. Somebody, we don't know who, well, what board approved it. Maybe it was approved, maybe it was never approved, but vinyl windows were put in. I would like to encourage that you put a real wood window in there, whether it be straight wood or aluminum clad, so that then when those vinyl windows start sagging and dying, which they will, that we go back the other direction and we hopefully eventually get this house where it'll have all high quality windows in it.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I know that quality means a lot in the long run. And when when we first got the house, one of the windows in front, one of the vinyl windows in front had a scratch on the glass. And I had someone come in and replace the glass. And, this guy deals with windows all the time, and he mentioned the same thing, that in the long run, it's better to have the better windows, and I agree with that. I'll talk to the contractor and also discuss it with my daughter, who's also the co-owner. And I have no problem with switching into better windows myself. I don't think it'll cost that much more in the long run. It'll be better. But I'd like to have the ability to make that decision based upon discussions with the contractor and my daughter before I do that.
Right, I understand, and I'm under no illusions that this board is going to make you put a non-vinyl window in there, given that it's at the very back of the property. You can hardly see it from any right-of-way.
And it matches what's there.
I just wanted to weigh in and just, thank you for listening to me
I'm
and
open to
considering that.
suggestion. I'm open to that suggestion.
Okay,
and
thank you.
If I can do it, I will.
Thank you, sir.
Mike?
David, thank you for your flexibility. I have no issue with the vinyl window. I think if you get a good quality vinyl window, it'll probably last as long as anything else. So I have no issue with the original findings of fact.
Carolyn?
I have no issue with it either.
Tom?
I agree with both Sandy and Owen. I think we have to start moving back in the right direction when it comes to using vinyl. But other than that, I mean, everything that you've laid out before us on the addition is in alignment and in compliance.
Yeah, and I, on this one, would agree with Mike and Carol Ann, that you do have vinyl on every other, it's not just one, on every other window right now in that house has got vinyl in. And vinyl's coming a long way. I do understand that, there's a need for, some aluminum clad and so forth, but, we're looking at other materials ourselves too. So I don't want to get too worked up on it, although at this point it isn't in the guidelines for us to approve vinyl windows. And so it becomes a point of contention, certainly. So,
Well, again, there's not that many windows.
Yeah.
It's not that much cost. I'd be happy to go ahead and try to do that.
okay. Well, we'll see who makes a motion, and then we'll see what the motion is, because obviously your application is for the vinyl windows, so that's what we're considering right now. I will accept the motion.
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that Madison District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to David Cheatham and Amy Eberwein for the proposed project to build a 15 by 12 frame addition on a concrete slab foundation to the rear of the house, integrating the roof into the existing roof structure and using the same shingles as on the house and also to match, using the same shingles on the house with composite siding to match what is already there, located at 816 West First Street, subject, however, to the conditions specified in the findings of fact, stating that vinyl windows are not appropriate at this point, and I don't feel that we can approve it. And if you can go ahead and, actually replace with wood or aluminum clad wood, then I think that we can move ahead with this project. But that is subject to that condition for me.
Okay. I'll go ahead and say I'll do that then.
Okay, well,
Okay, great.
hold on just a second. So your motion, don't say anything. So your motion is to approve it except for the vinyl. You're making a motion to approve the project except for the vinyl windows.
Except for the conditions specified, which is the vinyl window, yeah.
So I think we probably ought to split it, if that's gonna be the condition, because I think this is gonna be,
We either need to
Difficult.
split it, or the other option is,
I don't want to go back and replace
I
all the
cannot-
windows.
yeah, no.
No, we're not asking
Yeah.
that.
No, you don't have, that's not, I think,
I cannot do a staff approval on a vinyl window.
no,
However, a window I could
right.
do, but
So if he were to agree to use a wood window tonight, you could give him a staff approval on that?
I could,
Or
yes.
aluminum clad. He could-
Or
Aluminum
aluminum
would be
clad,
Either
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Correct.
but, you know, the application is for vinyl, so I'm just wanting to make sure with your motion, you know, because that's, you're kind of, you know, saying, hey, the project's all approved except for the vinyl, so you're basically making a motion not to approve the project the way it is.
If he doesn't agree to it, yeah.
Because
We
it's
have
right,
done
there's
that-
other
we have done
components.
that in the past, though.
There's other components, though.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, like Owen said, I think I know how this is gonna go, so I will reread it then. How's that sound?
But I don't want to necessarily change it, but I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing for the applicant. you know.
Absolutely. That's why I wanted to add that specification in, because I think if you did go with the wood or aluminum clad wood window, we could push this through. And also, can we just do that separately? Do the addition?
That's what I was asking. Do we want to take it separate?
Yeah, and leave the window out, and then have you work with Brooke to get the staff approval, and then you wouldn't have to come before the board for the windows.
That's up to you. If you want to go forward with the vinyl, we have to vote on it, if that's what you want to go forward with.
Okay.
If
you
you,
don't vote for I can't do the project off, you don't vote for the window?
no, that won't be
No.
the case. That's why I wanted to separate it, because I wanted to separate the rest of the project from the windows, so that way there is, you know, two separate votes. If
Yeah,
you're,
I'd like
if,
to have it separated. I mean, I want to do that, and I'd probably be able to do that, but I don't want the whole thing to depend on the vinyl window.
right.
Okay,
Okay.
so we leave the vinyl windows out then.
Well, do you want a vote on the vinyl windows?
Brooke, what should I do?
Well, she can't advise you of that.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Well,
If you don't get an approval,
Administrative approval without coming back before the board?
if you don't go vinyl, and let's say you wanted to go aluminum clad or you want to go wood, then you can get you can get her to approve it
I can get administrative
without coming
approval
back to us.
Without waiting a whole nother month, because if
Right.
I get ready to do the project, I don't want to
Exactly.
be delayed another month
Yeah.
just for the window.
Yes, that is correct. That's
Okay.
what you could do.
Okay, let's do that.
Or if you do,
Can I be a little contentious, Mr. Chairman?
you can.
Where in the guidelines does it say you cannot use vinyl windows? What page?
It's in there.
Where?
It's in there, Mike.
No, it's not. There's a whole page.
Says it's not appropriate.
It says it's not appropriate. It doesn't say you can't. It says it's not
That's what not
appropriate.
appropriate means.
So,
No,
well, the
I
other thing is,
disagree. I disagree.
so the other thing is, if you want us to vote on the vinyl windows, if it is not approved, that still means you could go back to Brooke and you can still do an administrative approval for wood or vinyl, you know, aluminum clad. So if you wanted to still vote on that, we can. You know, you're still gonna be in the same spot either way.
Yeah, I want to make sure the project gets approved.
Right.
The window could be flexible. We can do one way or the other.
Well, I gotta do whatever you wanna do.
Yeah, I'll be happy to go to administrative approval if you'll approve the project.
Without the windows or with the vinyl in, because that's the point of
Well,
contention.
Let's give me more flexibility. If you could vote on the vinyl window
Okay.
as it's submitted, and then if that is, I will
So-
go ahead and make sure. I
So
get the
let's
other window.
split,
I'll reread it
let's
then.
split it. How about that? Let's split the
I'll split it
project,
off?
take the windows out and do the rest of the project as another,
Okay,
okay?
I'll reread it. Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to David Cheatham and Amy Eberwein for the proposed project to build a 15 by 12-foot frame addition on a concrete slab foundation at the rear of the house, integrating the new roof into the existing roof and using the same shingles as currently on the house to match the existing, house, period. We won't talk about the windows. Located at 816 West First Street.
Do we have a second?
I would second.
Brooke?
Mike Pittman,
Abstain.
is there a conflict of interest?
Yeah, because I don't believe what he said about the guidelines. I don't think it says it's not appropriate.
Carolyn Rogers,
I approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Thomas Stark,
Approve.
and Josh Wilbur.
Approve.
Thank you.
All right, and then we'll can I have a motion on the windows?
He was just gonna take it to her.
No, he wants to get a motion on the vinyl windows as well. So I'll make a motion to approve the COA for the vinyl windows as proposed in the application to match the existing windows and the rest of the home at 816 West First Street.
I'll second.
Brooke?
Josh Wilbur,
Approve.
Thomas Stark,
Denied. Do not approve.
Owen McCall,
Do not approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Carolyn Rogers,
Approve.
and Mike Pittman.
Approve.
All right, so you can go forward with the vinyl windows. Of course, you can always change your mind if you wanted to look at aluminum clad or wood. I would just inform Brooke that's what you were doing, because obviously that's that'll fit more what the guidelines say is on a material list,
I
so.
will do that. I will look that option seriously, and
Okay,
if I need to change that, I'll get with her and get the approval from her.
all right, thank you. You
Thank you
can,
for your
Thank you again for the
consideration. Thank you
flexibility.
for being flexible.
all right, let's see here. Go to our next application at 813 West First Street.
Yes, Randy Eggenspiller, 813 West First Street.
All right, thank you, Randy. Brooke?
This home is built in 2005 condominium. It is a non-contributing structure, zoned historic district residential. The request is to build a roof over the existing deck using wood framing and metal roofing. This project has already been completed. As you can see on the photo, I did try to circle in red so you can notice which unit I am referring to. And then this is the site plan. And I did receive public comment, so would you like me to wait to read that until after you've spoken with the applicant?
Yeah, let's let him have a chance to add to, and then we'll have you read that.
Okay.
Is that all you have? Okay. All right, so, okay. Randy, do you have anything to add to?
Yes, Jackie and I purchased this place and moved into it in 2012. That next summer, we found out that the deck was really hot, so we needed to do something with that. At that point in time, we threw out a lot of different options, but came up with building a pergola over the interior portion of the deck, not the whole deck, and talked with the building inspector here, and it was my understanding that it really didn't need a permit to build that pergola. We built it and we put like a mesh membrane on top of it to hopefully shield some of the
Can you
sun.
tell me, when did you talk to the building inspector?
Back in 2013.
Oh, okay.
Not this one, it's a
Prior ones,
prior building.
because we've had a few since then. yeah.
Right. So we proceeded along with doing that. After about 3 or 4 months, that next summer of 14, it was still way too hot, so we put a metal roof on top of it to keep the sun completely off of it. Last summer, found some deteriorated pieces in the wood, so probably had some bad treated lumber, I guess, I don't know. So I came down to City Hall in March and said, we're going to replace some of the wood, maybe all of it, I don't know, until I get into it. And I was told I didn't need a permit then either, because it's a repair or replacement. So I proceeded along with getting my material and went along with the work. Then the building inspector stopped down last month and said, had some complaints, so that's why I'm here.
So how long have you had the metal roof over that area?
Since 2014.
Did you possibly get something in writing from the prior building inspector that said it was okay to build the pergola by chance?
No. There was just conversations and talked about view. You can't see it, it's a pergola, it's just.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the board?
Did I understand correctly that the current roof has been there since 2014, or is this a new roof?
It's a new one.
Okay.
The other one had hail damage.
So
what,
he
3
had
years
one
ago.
on it.
Yeah.
He had a roof on it since
Right.
2014. He's just
Renewed it.
renewed it. Yeah, that's what, yeah.
Was it like a wood arbored roof, and then you, put mesh originally and then metal on that? That's the one that deteriorated?
No, we put mesh on it first and it just didn't work. The deck was still 120 degrees, so we put metal on top of it to keep the sun off the wood.
Yeah, apologize, that's what I was trying to say. But that one has been removed, and this is a brand new one, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other?
And
Yeah, go ahead.
again, I'm sorry, could you repeat, you came, when you were doing this new roof, you came here and asked if you needed to,
Right, what
did you need?
process do I need to go through to redo it? And it was told to me that it's a repair or replacement and nothing,
With
you don't
existing.
need to.
And that was to do the roof, or that was the wooding? The wood, I
whole
think.
thing.
The whole thing? Okay, the whole thing. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Randy, it doesn't appear to me, and again, I'm looking at the original pergola that was on there. It doesn't look like to me that sticks out any further. Is it the same dimensions? Is
Yes,
the roof-
it's, the interior part of the deck that I covered is like 10 and a half feet by 10.2.
Okay.
The overhang sticks out about 11 inches or 10 inches, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, because I'm by there probably 2 or 3 times a week, and I never noticed any change. I never even saw you working up there. You must have been pretty quick.
No, I'm pretty slow, really. I don't work a very long day, let me tell you.
Any other questions from the board? Brooke, you want to read the public comment you have now?
Yes. This was written from Ben and Becky Canada. It states, "We wanted to bring some concerns to your attention regarding the Eggenspiller building project that is up for review this Monday, June 27th, at your next historic board meeting. My parents live in the adjacent condo. Here are our concerns. Number one, slope of the new roof. Randy has already built the new roof before approval/permit, and our concern is whether the current slope of the roof is adequate for proper drainage. Number two, drainage, guttering, and flashing. How is this being addressed so it doesn't negatively affect the adjacent properties? And number three, prior damage to the adjacent residents' previous roof was built without historic board approval or a building permit. When Randy took down the first roof, there appears to be damage, and then she has in parentheses holes, to the siding of the adjacent condo wall, address being 811 West First Street. How will this be rectified? Will the previously damaged siding be repaired or replaced? Currently, there appears to be a temporary patch covering holes, which could lead to water damage and leakage down the road." And that's all I have.
Randy, would you like to address any of that?
Uh,
You don't have to, but I'm just,
Well, the 2x6's joist work, isn't attached to the common wall at all. No siding was ever removed during the process of building it and then taking it down and rebuilding it. The beam has bolts in it, it's bolted into the wall, not into the siding wall, but so I'm not quite for sure. And I never really was too concerned with the slope of it. It's probably a 112 pitch, but there's no ceiling, there's no anything to it. It's just a metal roof. It's been that way for 8 years.
there's no pitch to the roof at all?
But it's a 112.
Yeah.
It's not quite a 212, it's a 112, 1.5 12 maybe.
How does it drain now, do you know? I mean, if it,
Just drains out onto our deck,
okay.
and it has since 2014.
And the holes that are mentioned, are they on your building, or are they, that have the temporary patches, or are they on one of the existing structures you're attached to?
I don't know what temporary patches they're referring to.
Just what was read in the letter.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
There's,
do you know what holes they're referring to, or you don't know what, there's no patches to them?
there was probably 2 screws on the vinyl siding, which is the vinyl siding, but no, not into any of the per se wall, no.
You don't have screws just going into the vinyl siding and then stopping, right? I mean,
Well, it was a piece of flashing that went in the groove of the vinyl siding. There's like that half-inch gap in each lap, and it just slid up into there, and there's a little, almost like a little screw that you, 1/4 inch long, that's soldered so the wind doesn't blow it off. It doesn't go in anywhere. That's the only thing I can think of that they're referring to.
I'm curious as to how they would know there's 2 holes in that siding when they don't have access to your porch. I don't know. Okay.
What are, the dimensions of the new roof? I know you said it was the same, pretty much as the old one, but I wanted to make sure I got that down in my notes.
10 foot 5 inches by 10 foot 2 inches.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the audience? Ken, come on.
How does a
Ken, can you
project-
state your name and
Oh, yeah,
address?
sorry. Ken should know the drill. Ken McWilliams, 315 Poplar. How does a project on a non-contributing home even get on this agenda?
Because it's in the historic district, that's why.
Should have been sent over to the building inspector. Has nothing to do with this board.
Stan, thank you.
Cheatham, I was just up here a minute ago.
Yes.
I live across the street from them, Jackie and Randy. I've known them since high school. They take very good care of their property. They make sure everything's done thoroughly. I've seen the back of it from the road. I haven't gone up right next to it, but it looks fine. It's done real well. I don't think there's any problem, just from what I can see living in the neighborhood. So I support their application.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, hearing none. Owen, you want to take us through findings of fact on this one?
Oh, boy, now I can't read that. Can we twist that back a little?
Can we move this?
You got that one up there, can you see that one?
Is it on the screen here also?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's much better. Yeah, that's fantastic.
We old guys need some help from time to time.
Okay, so we have additions here.
We do not have guidelines specific to adding a roof
Right.
over a deck, so
Right, so this is the closest
This
thing.
was the
Okay.
best option.
Additions to historic homes is not a historic home. Should be located at the rear. This is the rear. Smaller and simpler, compatible design. It certainly looks compatible with the original design. It's consistent, okay.
Sorry.
Roof, shape, okay, at least it says roof. Shape, materials, color looks similar to what was there. The position is hardly changed at all. It doesn't imitate an area, I mean, none of this really applies. The 4, 5, and 6 don't even apply, so, okay, so I would say that it is consistent, this proposal is consistent with the guidelines, is my take on this, yes.
Okay. Mike?
I agree with Owen, and I'd also like to add, I think it's a repair and replace. I don't think it's a new addition.
Carol Ann?
I agree with Mike.
Tom? Oh, sorry. All right.
I agree with all.
Yeah. Sandy?
I agree, because it's, what we have is in the rear and it's compatible materials.
Yeah. And I agree with Mike on this. I think this is a little bit of a different one for us because it was already there, and although it never got a permit in 2013, 14, at this point in time, it now is, becomes kind of more of a replacement, but I also understand too why it's under new construction because it didn't have that on record. So, all right, with that, I'll accept a motion.
I move based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Randy Eggenspiller for the proposed roof covering of the rear deck at 813 West First Street.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Brooke?
Josh Wilbur,
Approve.
Thomas Stark,
Approved?
Owen McCollum,
Approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Approved.
Carol Ann Rogers,
Approve.
and Mike Pittman.
Approved.
All right, Mr. Eggenspiller, with that, you will get a certificate of appropriateness in the mill for it. I would suggest that for the public comment that was made, that you'll possibly, dang, this may be my mic. Possibly get the building inspector to take a look to see about the drainage and make sure that, it's draining appropriately, so it's not affecting a neighbor's wall. That might be the best thing to do with
Sure.
this.
I'll stop down and, I'm supposed to, get a building permit from you and
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, you will. Yeah, and just have them look at that and make sure that the drainage is good. So that way, the neighbors feel comfortable with it as well.
Sure.
Yep.
Thank
Thank you. All right, our next application is 1107 West Main Street.
That's not what I had.
Brian Pierce, 7503 East Riverside Drive,
All right, Brooke?
and Tara Pierce.
Okay. She gets mentioned too, huh?
This home is a circa 1890 upright and wing. It is a contributing structure, also zoned Historic District Residential. The COA request is to replace the existing windows with vinyl, infill 2 doors on the front porch, replace 1 window on the porch with a doorway opening. We also do need to add a modification to the application to infill 3 windows on the west side of the home.
You don't have it either.
As you can see, the infill has already been done. The front window to notate, I had written a staff COA to replace that, but it was replaced with a different material. So that is one of the windows up for review as well.
Can you repeat that, Brooke?
The front window,
Yes.
I had written a staff COA, but this is a vinyl, so it did not conform to the
The staff.
COA, so this is also included in the application.
Okay.
This photo shows where the infill on the porch is, or has been done. This photo was taken just a few days ago, so it shows what the infill looks like. Oops, sorry. There we go. Another just up close of the front window. And then these are the 3 infilled windows on the west side that have been added to the application. And that is all I have.
Would you guys like to add to that?
No, not really. I mean, it's just what we had. I mean, we talked to somebody about this process and what I think that broke out. And the major effect was the size and the grid work is what we was, and we didn't exactly know because there was 3 different kinds of windows in the property, vinyl, metal, and wood, what was beyond deterioration. So that was basically it.
Can I ask why you went ahead and put vinyl in without getting approval before that?
Well, I was under the understanding as long as the same size window and the grid work was the main thing, because they're overly sized, they wanted to keep the same size, not exactly the same material. And there was 3 different kinds of materials. We just went with one
Right.
across the board instead of
Okay.
that, is the reason.
And again, maybe it needs to be restated that any changes that happen to the exterior needs to go through the Historic District Board of Review, or at least through, Brooke, to get, staff approval.
You see the finished product, it's,
We're not say, yeah, I don't think you're gonna say, have anybody like say, oh gosh, you know, you're doing a horrible job. But it, you know, there are materials that,
I understand
yeah,
that.
okay, okay.
We did have somebody come out before we started, who we thought was a subject matter expert, to see what we needed to do.
Was it from somebody from the city?
It was,
Hanover.
previous.
Okay.
They, I mean, when we spoke of Brooke, they didn't even tell us about the siding, so I'm like, I'm glad you told us that, because we did not get good information on this.
Right.
I mean, yeah,
This
you
was
see
to
those,
include all of that now.
those metal siding now, or aluminum, and we went with LP Smart Sides.
Yeah.
Go back to wood, the original, so.
True. I mean, and so obviously the LP Smart Siding, much nicer. It creates a much better look. It's longer lasting. It certainly makes for the house. I just have to bring up, obviously, doing something before you get approval, because you've heard it already, I'm sure, as you were sitting there.
This is my first meeting, so.
That's right, yes. So, any other questions from the board? Or should I say other?
I would just like to add that, infilling doors, windows, changes the historic character of the structure itself. That's something that, you know, the guidelines don't actually talk specifically about that, but they say that windows and doors should stay in their original positions. So that implies that you shouldn't infill. Just would like to bring that point up also.
It's understandable. It had two front doors, though. I mean,
A lot of our
three,
houses,
yeah, three, yeah.
a lot of our houses had multiple doors.
Yeah. Do you know if it was used as a single dwelling before? You think it was two
No idea.
apartments
Well,
because of that?
the renter who had it, when we bought it off of him, it was a single dwelling, yes.
Okay.
But
Sometimes
I don't know
that's
the
what
history of
happens.
it,
Yeah.
so.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions, comments from the audience? All right, hearing none. Mike, you want to take us through findings of fact? Thank you, sir.
Findings of fact, citing, since you almost made a mistake. And you've got, I believe, cement board on there. I think you meet our guidelines based on, what you've got. I think, getting aluminum siding off. Did you recycle your aluminum?
I'm going to, yeah.
That's a good idea. It's worth some money, but don't throw it away. So, but it really does, it does, the cement board will be here and the LP will add to it. Next is the windows. Page 66-3, again, windows are prominent building components. Again, that front window, I think, was an issue before you started on it.
It's huge.
And I think you're trying to make it where it makes sense right now, is what you're trying to do. Again, the vinyl seems to be a difference of opinion on the board, so I'll leave that to my other compatriots to talk to you about that. But I see no issue with the window. And again, I think the replacing it was probably a good idea. I like what you've done so far. The house already looks better with that in there. Doors and entrances?
I apologize, I did not,
You didn't have it on there?
not have that one on there.
Page 39 is where they are. The findings of fact there. Basically, we don't like to change in doors and entrances very much. But again, I think based on the way this house sat and what you did to it, I think it makes sense what you did with putting the door up there where it is. So I have no issue with where you put the door.
Caroline?
I agree with you.
All right.
I do.
Well, that's good. Tom?
I do not agree.
Sandy? You got it.
I do not agree.
Owen?
I do not agree.
And I'll agree with Mike. I mean, I don't like that it's done ahead of time. I mean, I think you've already heard me state my comments on it. I think you're trying to do a lot of things correct sometimes when you're doing this for, the first time and trying to get advice from people, you get some bad advice from some, and then others. But, I would say this because it's on record, come to the city hall. Brooks only bit 2 heads off that I know of, and other than that, everybody else has survived. So, they give you good direction here because they know us, they know what the guidelines are, and they're going to give you some good advice on things. So I think you're trying to make the house look nice. I think even the door, it could be even original where the door even eventually was to begin with. I don't know. That's the hard part. And that's why when things get changed, and that's why you hear from the board, as things continue to get changed, it's hard to figure out, well, what was original, what wasn't. I'm pretty sure you probably opened the house up and you're like, oh, we don't even know if it's original or not. And you try to just make it look good. And we totally understand that, but we're also trying to keep that historic preservation, the historic character, so that we can make sure we keep that historic designation of downtown. So I appreciate what you've done, but I slapped your hand a little bit at the same time, but just make sure, get that out there. All right, accept a motion.
I make a motion that based on the preceding findings of fact, that the house at 1107 West Main, did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, 1107 West Main, be approved as submitted, based on the fact that, unfortunately, a lot of the work was already done, but, it does, give the house, I think, a much better look as far as Main Street, and, at some point, when you decide to go with a little different type of window, and that window doesn't serve what you want it to do, hopefully you'll upgrade the window as well.
Noted.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Brooke?
Mike Pittman,
Approve?
Carolyn Rogers,
Approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Deny.
Owen
And I do
McCall,
think it looks better.
Do not approve.
Thomas Stark,
Do not approve.
and Josh Wilbur.
Approve. So because there was not 4 votes to the contrary, then you will get your certificate of appropriateness in the mail, and you can continue your work to finish the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, our next application is 1306 West Second Street.
Brandon Taylor, 1306 West Second Street.
All right, thank you, Brandon.
This home is a circa 1900 gable L. It is a contributing structure in the Historic District residential zoning area. The COA request is to build a 24-foot by 14-foot addition on the rear of the home with vinyl siding and vinyl windows to match the rest of the home. And you can see some of the pictures as well. This would be the elevation of the new addition.
Is that elevation the same elevation as the rest of the house?
It is.
And the site plan, or excuse me, yeah. Not the site plan, it's the floor plan, sorry, but you can also see here where it would go. That is all I have.
So you're building an addition so your wife can stay there and you stay in the rest, huh?
That's the plan. I don't have anything additional to add. I try to be as descriptive as possible in what I submitted, so.
All right. And this is is this gonna be on a concrete slab?
It'll be cross space.
There'll be crawl space underneath, okay.
How many windows are in the new addition?
There's a total of 4 windows in the new addition, 3 facing east, and one picture window facing west.
Not on the north, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And there is an alley behind your house.
Yeah, that's correct. So the addition is coming off the back of the house on the, going out towards the north side. So Second Street's on the south side and it's going to the alley.
Right.
Between my garage and the house using the existing, footprint of the house.
And this alleyway is considered a public alleyway?
Yes.
Just want to make sure. Okay. Any other questions from the board? The rest of your house currently has vinyl windows in it?
Yeah, the entire house has vinyl siding and vinyl windows in it, so we're using similar material. Not to distract from what I'm asking for, but we did get quotes and look at potentially changing to a different siding type, and it's just not reasonable at this point. I mean, I'm being quoted a third of what we paid for the house to replace the siding, so.
Well, on the whole house?
On the whole house, yeah. That's
Did you look at
something to consider.
different aluminum clad windows over vinyl windows or not at all?
We did, yeah, it just, the benefit relative to the cost, didn't seem to make sense, especially given what's currently in the rest of the house, and we're using higher end vinyl windows, to begin with.
Did you get a PACE grant for your
No.
work? Okay. Any other questions? Any questions, comments from the audience? All right, hearing none. Tom, you want to take us through findings of fact?
Sure. Gonna pull it up.
Sorry.
So, for new construction, rear lateral additions, should be compatible in terms of height, scale, materials, and setback, and I believe that is in conformance. The historic, structure will have minimal change, to it, which is when we're adding additions on, we try to preserve as much of that history in that building as possible. You're definitely keeping that intact. And it should be visually compatible with neighboring buildings, and it appears to be so. So I feel that you're in conformance. One thing I will add is, we've been talking vinyl all night. But while we've been talking vinyl, your house is all vinyl. So it would be hard for, I think, any of us to say you gotta rip it all off and start all over. It seems to make some amount of common sense to go ahead and allow you to use those materials in the addition. And your home is, you have kept a lot of the historic character of it, the trim and the front porch. All of that's very critical. I'm guessing probably under that vinyl is maybe even the original wood siding. So who knows? Maybe you'll win the lottery somewhere down the line and you'll get all of the vinyl off. But I think you're in compliance with our guidelines.
I think part of it too has less to do with ability and more to do with what makes common sense to invest in a home of that size and age.
Sandy?
I concur with Dan that the vinyl is the thing we've beaten to death.
Right.
It's, it's located in the rear, it looks like it's all with scale, and it,
Yeah.
it's gonna be the same as the house you have.
Owen?
I agree for the same reasons.
Mike?
I agree for the same reasons.
Carol Ann?
I agree for the same reasons.
And I agree for the same reasons, and I would also say that it's hard to see from the street view. It'll still be hard to see this addition. You will actually, I think, have to go the alley to see this addition, as well, just to further the case there. All right, accept a motion. Okay, cool.
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Brandon Taylor for the proposed application to build a 12 by 24 foot addition on the rear of the house with 4 vinyl windows and vinyl siding to match existing materials on the rest of the home. This home is located at 1306 West Second Street.
Do you have a second?
I would second, but just to clarify, I thought it was 24 by 14, and rather than 12 by 24.
24 by 14.
Just for the record.
Yeah, it is.
24 by 14.
12 by what?
Yeah.
Or
It's 24 by 14.
24 by 14, I
Thank
just didn't want him to lose 2 feet.
Will you amend your motion, Tom, to that?
Yeah, 24 by 14, is that what we said?
Yes.
Okay. For the proposed application to build a 24 by 14 addition on the rear of the house with 4 vinyl windows and vinyl siding to match materials on the rest of the house, located at 1306 West Second Street.
All right. Sandy?
I would second that.
All right. Brooke?
Josh Wilbur,
Approve?
Thomas Stark,
Approve?
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Carol Ann Rogers,
Approve.
and Mike Pittman.
Approve.
All right, Brandon, with that, you can continue your project. Make sure you got all the proper building permits, especially now that you have this approval, you'll be able to get those. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next application is 410 St. Michael's Avenue. Hello. Thank you for being patient.
I'm Debbie Snodgrass at 601 East Main Street.
All right. Brooke?
This currently is a vacant home. The NHL survey showed data for the previous structure, which was fire damaged and demolished. But it is zoned historic district residential. The COA request is to build a new 1,000
Whew.
12 foot.
Let's squeeze that on that lot.
They must be building a new church.
I know, right? Yeah. Single-family home using LP Smart Siding, wood, aluminum-clad wood windows, and asphalt shingles. We have more pictures of the lot and the neighborhood. And this is a rendering of the proposed new home that would go in that spot.
You good?
Almost.
Okay.
We have a few more pictures. Sorry.
Sorry.
Different elevations.
Yeah.
Floor plan. And then these, this one and the next are 2 inspiration photos. And that is all I have.
It looks like it'd be amazing. The contractor would be, maybe a better contractor on this one. I'm just joking. It's a joke.
She's pulling it. She's going to it.
Yeah, I better be careful walking out. Tony's, I'm more worried about you, not Tony. So, do you have anything else to add to this? Never mind.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I just had a couple of questions. It's beautiful. What I wanted to clarify, are you actually building the house on pylons with grids in between the pylons, or a poured foundation, basement, or just a poured foundation with a crawl space?
Yes, you can. I'm Lisa Hammock. We're actually doing solid foundation around it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we even do a foundation in the middle to make sure it's solid instead of just doing piers.
Yeah, I thought so. I just saw a couple of pictures with the.
It is pretty like that.
It's beautiful, yeah.
This is not as sturdy as
Right.
solid.
Right.
And Lisa, for the record, you're with the contractor, right? We gotta get on the record. Okay.
And that looks like a standing seam roof, is that right?
It is in the picture, but we did asphalt, so.
Oh,
Yeah, they put asphalt on that
okay.
application.
This designer is, I think it's Allison Ramsey, is that correct? And the company has won awards for historic homes on Main Street projects. So we've been searching for architects that can do this type of thing for us.
It does look beautiful, and the inspiration photos were great to give it that perspective too, because I think it'll fit in really well in the neighborhood.
The intention was for it to
Yeah.
fit in Madison.
Yeah, and it'll still be modern enough that you'll know it's not a historic structure. So that's the other part, so.
And we have also found with windows, supposedly with a lifetime warranty, we'll see.
Ooh,
Also, aluminum clad wood also works.
nice.
And I really like your attic vent on the front of the porch there. It's nice. Nice touch.
Really is, yeah. Any other comments, questions from the board?
Looks good.
Any comments from the audience? All right, hearing none. Sandy, you want to take us through findings of fact?
Do you have new guidelines in there? Again, this should be, this page 69 is, it's infill buildings. And then as far as compatible widths for materials, height, that, there's, I see they're in compliance. Scale, proportion for, will be compatible with adjacent. Thanks, in terms of, roof form, it's oriented in 6, oriented toward the major street, and, I don't think there's any garage, it doesn't apply on the 7. I don't think there's any garage in the plan.
There was on the plan, what we submitted for the, layout, there's gonna be a garage, and the roof is gonna match. You won't see it.
Or if you want to go back to where the.
Do we have that, Brooke?
Yeah,
I'm getting back to it.
Okay.
Okay.
So coming off the.
Is it
right
come off the
here,
kitchen?
It's gonna come off of that door, go into the garage, so the garage is gonna set back off of the alley, so you won't be able to see it from the street, you'll have to drive down the alley.
All right, but that's
Turn
that,
into
so that is in compliance with that as far as
Yeah.
opening on the alley.
And it's not attached, is that correct?
No, it is attached.
It is attached?
So
Okay.
it'll be the same hip roof all the way across.
Okay.
Then it'll be, hip on the front side that faces the alley.
Anything else, Sandy?
No.
Owen?
No, I agree for the same reasons.
Mike?
I agree.
Carol Ann?
I agree.
Tom?
I agree, and I would just like to add that, new construction on empty lots like that is really encouraged. And thank you for doing such a beautiful job on the design.
Tom, you stole my thunder. I was gonna come out with that, and then you took it. Gosh, man. No, thank you very much for doing that. I think this is gonna be wonderful, a great addition to that side of town as well, so. All right, accept a motion?
I'll do this.
You can do it, Sandy.
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Riverside Group for the proposed 1,012-foot single-family home using LP Smart siding, wood, aluminum-clad wood windows, and asphalt shingles at 410 St. Michael's Avenue.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Lots of them.
Good job.
Brooke?
Pick one, Burke.
Mike Pittman,
Approved.
Carol Ann Rogers,
Approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Thomas Stark,
Approve.
and Josh Wilbur.
Approved. You'll get your COA in the mail, and you can begin construction as long as you have the right building permits. So thank you. All right, our next application is 417 Presbyterian Avenue. Oh, no. You threw one in on me. Is that not it?
Oh, no, that
Yeah,
was
it's on the,
here.
this is the next one on the legal notice, so,
No.
17 Presbyterian.
I have 417 next.
sorry. Okay, let me
We-
change it.
We can,
There.
yeah, all right.
Sorry.
Okay. Throwing me for a loop. You're just making sure I'm paying attention to my notes here.
And that's what threw me. I actually switched it. I had it
Hello?
in order, and I was like, no, that's
Thanks for the opportunity tonight. Thank you
Yes.
for being here. I'm Deborah Anderson. This is my husband, Dale Anderson. We currently live in the old Elks Building at 420 West Street, apartment number 6.
All right, thank you very much. Brooke?
As she mentioned, this is an empty lot. It is in the Historic District residential zoning area. The COA request is to build a brand-new two-story house to include first-floor parking and a shop, a storage area due to the narrow lot size. The second floor will be a residence. The size and number of windows in the current application may change. There's also a stone facade area that may change the amount of stone facade put on. And the plans may change to a garage only, subject to a sewer evaluation. So currently, you can see an overhead view of where the lot is in the streetscape. Setbacks. And then this would be the proposed design of the home, different elevations shown. And that is all I have.
So this will butt up pretty close to the other home, is that correct?
Yeah, well, all the setbacks are going to be met as they normally are, so he has a 3-foot side setback.
So you'll be 3 foot from the other house?
And then we would have a 3-foot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we've met all the normal setbacks, we're not asking for any variances.
Okay.
This is to the west of the house plan is the little parking lot for the Baptist church. And so we'll have a nice view of John Paul Park.
Yes,
and a
you
nice view of the bluff, because it is a little bit of a taller structure. We probably are Brooke's most complicated application because we had to submit an either-or plan, and we're asking tonight to have an approval on Plan A or Plan B because we're still having a hard time evaluating being able to get sewer to that lot.
Yeah. This is on the garage itself, is what you're talking about.
Well, the plan you're looking at there is
Right.
the garage level below with the residence above it.
Right.
And we, in doing our due diligence, figured out that it wasn't real obvious that we could get sewer. There had been a property there a long time ago that we think, that lot's probably been empty for 20, 22 years. It's just grass. And in looking for the sewer hookup, it wasn't obvious, and the only way right now would be, there's an old pipe that's very old that comes underneath those two connected houses next to it, which would be a dangerous thing to try to hook onto that. So with the help of our general contractor, Brian Martin, who's here, he can answer any of the sewer questions, but the city sewer department has been working for about 3 weeks trying to figure out how to hook this property onto the sewer line. They've been doing some digging, they've had a lot of cameras down in the lines, and we haven't got a definitive answer yet. So on the chance that it was not feasible to get sewer or not cost effective, because I don't really know, I've never had to bring sewer to our property, we built before in other places, but not knowing what it would cost to have to possibly tear up the street and bring the sewer in, we decided, well, if we were, no matter what, we want to close on the lot, we need a garage, and if we had to do without sewer, then we at least want approval for the garage. So we resubmitted a second plan just for the garage, which really does not need sewer.
Right.
So that's why you've got 2 plans. We're just asking for approval for
Gotcha.
both scenarios based on what comes back on the sewer.
Okay. And what type of shop are you wanting to go first for if you were to get that?
Personal garage.
Just a personal garage shop?
Shop area.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
He doesn't do shop work as
What
a
kind of shop?
business.
I was like, well, woodwork,
No, it's just his tools, and he's renovating a 1954 vehicle.
Ooh,
And
nice.
that's why the garage has to be long and tall. And
I like that. Good deal. All right, any questions from the board?
Is it a 2-story house?
That's two-story.
Okay.
a 2-story building with
So you
the-
would go in through your garage and you would go upstairs over the garage to get into the house, or?
There'll be a long stairway, and there'll also be an elevator.
I see. Thank you.
And there's a side passage door on the side. You may not see it. Yeah, you can, I
it's right at
think
the
you can
top.
see it on the west side.
And that side door, is that at the front of the building?
Yes, it's
Okay.
The garage door is on the front, is on the Presbyterian side.
Right.
And
then the side door, the little one.
Side door
is
is
parking
on the west side, on the parking lot side, yeah.
So the garage would be as tall as the house?
It's a pretty tall garage.
By itself?
12-foot door.
By itself?
Because there's so many historic old homes along there, and the two that are to the left of it, if I'm not mistaken, they're connected, are they not?
There's just the two, yeah.
Yeah, there's just the two. I have been through the old house that you said was torn down, and it was only 15 years ago because I've only lived here 15 years, and I happened to walk through it and it was in deplorable shape. So I understand why it's gone. But the house to me doesn't fit the character of that neighborhood. How did you decide on the design?
Well, what I determined and learned was that I thought that we are understanding that's in the historic residential district, but that Madison would allow to build a style that is within the time that it's built. You know, you had different styles of houses built in certain eras and different times, and that since now we're building in 2022 in a modern day, it's not uncommon to have a more modern,
Well, yeah,
little
it's
bit more
more like a
contemporary
Frank Lloyd
style.
Wright kind of design. And I just wonder if it's going to be a distraction, though, to the other. There's not another house quite like that.
Our guidelines actually encourage modern design for new construction.
That was my understanding, yeah.
As does the Department of the Interior. I mean, what we want to avoid is a fake old house, right? So
Right.
if you're building something new, you'd certainly be welcome to make it of a federal style, but you would want to build it so that you weren't trying to pretend or you know, that it was old. You would want to have a federal style that was obviously new. So there's nothing wrong within our guidelines or the Department of the Interior guidelines about putting a new style building next door to a 19th century style building. Yeah.
I look at Madison, when I moved here and we came here to retire, I consider Madison a very artistic town. And so I guess I look at this as my little object of art. It's something unique, and
We actually have a couple of structures that have been built recently that are a very contemporary style.
when the building is small, it gives you the height, you can get the height to make it feel bigger, get lots of windows. So kind of felt like wanted to get a little outside the box, I guess.
Would there be a way to put the garage door on the back side or not? Because that's what that's what I thought. I was thinking, I don't think there's access there.
Yeah,
is there?
it's the only way to get a
Yeah.
garage door in is on one side.
That's-
Everything
that's-
else is locked.
That's what I
Okay,
thought.
speaking to that point, I would like, Brooke, you had some comments in what you sent the board. I'd like everybody to hear, and this is a negative take on having that garage door open right up onto the street, and it speaks to what Josh was saying. So could you read that?
Sure. I'll read verbatim from the staff report, but let me grab that.
You want me to read it?
While she's
I have it
finding
right
those.
here, or,
Okay,
I mean,
go
you
ahead.
can if you'd like to.
Go ahead, if you got it.
So, it's rather than reading the whole thing, I'm skimming to where, okay, so, not in conformance with guideline 7, because the garage will be oriented toward the front facade and the major street. However, it is in conformance with ordinance, 151.34 of the Historic District Chapter, A through E, G, I, and J of the ordinance, because the proposed building's height, front facade, proportion of openings, spacing, rhythm, voids and solids rhythm, walls of continuity, scale, and materials texture are compatible with surrounding structures, not in conformance to ordinance 151.34F, because the rhythm of a front entrance or porch projection is not compatible with surrounding structures because of the proposed front-facing garage. It is also noted in here as well, I'm not sure, Owen, if you're wanting this read as well, but the parcel upon which the proposed new residential structure will be built is long and narrow, and that there is no other access, because it is locked on all 3 other sides. So they are proposing a front-facing garage to accommodate a large vintage vehicle, because the lot is not wide enough to accommodate a side entry garage, and there is no access for a rear-facing garage.
Yes, thank you. That's just, I wanted to make sure everyone heard, yeah.
And just on that, if you, on that Presbyterian, there's two houses next to it, and then there's three garages. Because I think Presbyterian must have been an alley in its prior life.
It may have
You
been.
know, from Third Street houses that went back to it. I don't know, those are garages that face out, which, because I was thinking, can't they do it some other way? But there are garages, plus there's all those garages across the street that
Storage
don't look
buildings.
like they belong here either.
Right, which was gonna be my exact point. I'm doing the findings of fact on this one. So I was setting myself up for this, so I might as well just say it now. So Brooke was saying, you know, that a negative, what she thinks is against the guidelines is that front, the garage door that opens right onto Presbyterian, which technically is against the guidelines. On the other hand, across the street, the whole block is nothing but that. So, you could say there could be nothing more compatible with the surrounding structures because you got more of that than anything else in that block. So, it seems very consistent with the surrounding structures.
I would agree with that too, and I would like to also point out that there is new construction on First Street, just north of Bicentennial Park, that has a front-facing garage right on the street, so.
Yeah. And that was the same reason, because it was landlocked the other way. So you
Right,
couldn't-
it's
yeah.
landlocked, yeah.
One more comment. As you're going east, when you get past the two connected houses that are right next to it, the next two there's a little alley, the next two structures are also garages. They're old garages.
Right. Right,
And they
that's
back
right.
up to the Costigan House, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are trying to choose that particular garage door with the windows in it to kind of doll up that garage door and, a little different, make it a little more substantial. Costs more to do that with those windows and all in that garage. But,
So I do want to say this. So if you can't get the sewage fixed, you want to still go with a garage, which basically would just take it down to a one-level
one
garage
level with a simple gable
with
roof.
the same.
No, I submitted the other plan that is just a simple gable roof.
Okay.
Do you
So
have that one?
it's just
Rick?
going to be this.
Yes,
It's going to be
yes.
just that. Okay.
Yeah.
I just
Same-
wanted for the board
yep.
so they knew.
Same front door. We haven't committed that we don't really need to put any windows in it, so we didn't submit any windows on that one.
Okay.
And again, it's just a garage that we know we can get water, but, we can't get sewer.
Well, that
We
means
get
I can't
water to
watch
wash-
him working.
wash the-
That's
we can get water to wash the car, and that's about it, But,
understand. Right.
Anyway, kind of need that either, we're just not sure
Right.
yet.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions before we?
Any time frame for your decision making?
For, well,
Maybe so that we don't sewage.
Brian, did you get to talk to anybody today?
We don't have prices yet, but I think we'll have an answer pretty soon.
Okay, good.
Okay.
As soon as possible.
Okay.
We,
Yeah, they stopped digging where they think the sewer is. I think they found it, didn't they?
they found a big 8-inch line across the street next to your building. Now we gotta figure out, I think we need to hear from the sewer engineer exactly about tying in, and then we have to figure out where's the closest distance to go and what it's gonna cost me to do it. I just don't know what that cost is, because I've never done it before. So I think we have to figure that, because we're still costing the whole project, but be nice to know.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the audience? Come on up, and we got somebody coming up there, though. Jan, you want to?
I'm Jan Vatrus. I've been doing a whole lot.
Can you state your address too, Jan? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, 701 East Second Street.
Thank you.
I'm on the other end of town. I've been doing a whole lot of research on the black community in Madison, and the property, the Double Federal, was owned by some of the oldest black residents in Madison. Some of those other houses across the street on the corner of Poplar and Presbyterian were also the back of the Costigan property. So there's a whole bunch of really significant property owners in that neighborhood that we were not aware of earlier. That's why I just asked her what the lot number is. I can. It's, well, it's Addition West. Yeah, that's, yeah. So I can give you a whole history of who owned that property. It's very significant, folks. So I appreciate modern construction, and so that it doesn't look like fake federal, but I would ask that you please be sensitive to the fact that this is not a throwaway section. It's a very significant part of Madison's early history. And I will be happy to give her the.
Hey, Jan, with nothing there though, what's
No, the
what's
house
your
right next door, the double federal.
Okay, but what they're doing is building a whole new one next to it. Is that
Right,
what
that's
you?
why I said just be very
Okay.
sensitive to what you put in there,
Yes.
because that is not a throwaway neighborhood.
Right, I'll
And
totally
it's
agree.
going to be more significant as we continue to document where these folks lived.
Yeah, appreciate it. Okay.
Okay? So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other comments from audience?
I live down in 701 Helm Street. My name's Mary Allen.
Okay.
And I'm renting currently. I'm gonna be building later.
Okay.
But, when you walk down Presbyterian, there are several garages that go in. I'm not talking about across the street. I'm talking about on the same side they're at. There's 2 garages, then there's a house that has a garage at the back that comes in for across the street. So theirs isn't the first one.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. Thank you. Any other comments? All right, hearing none. Owen, you're up.
Okay. Okay, so, new construction infill buildings should be compatible with adjacent buildings in terms of height, materials, setback, scale, proportions, roof form. Now this, I'd say everything up to this point is similar. Roof form is very different, obviously. Well, unless we go with the 1 story, then it will be very traditional roof form. If they have the sewer hookup not be too expensive, then the second story will be a very different roof form. It's oriented toward the major street as a number 6. And the garages should be built at the rear of a dwelling or set well back. We can't do this here because of the constraints on the property lines, but having the garage in front is, as has been pointed out by many people at this point, many structures on that street nearby do have garages that open directly onto the main thoroughfare. So, given that, it seems to me that this project is in conformance with the guidelines.
Okay. Mike,
I agree for same reasons.
Carol Ann,
I agree.
Tom,
I agree for the same reasons.
Sandy?
I agree for the same reasons.
And I would agree for the same reasons. I would say, on the roof line, it seems to somewhat match to me like other homes on the ends of streets like that don't have as much space. You see just that single pitch like that because they can't get another side. So going from the garage, to that level, I would say it somewhat matches what I've seen a lot of. So that's the only thing I would maybe have a slight disagreement with him on. So, but that's not a big issue. So with that, I'll accept the motion.
Okay, based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Deborah and Dale Anderson for the proposed new infill construction to be located at 417 Presbyterian Avenue.
And do you want to state for either or plans?
Oh, yes, and depending on what the city tells them on their access to a sewer line, we want to approve both a single-story garage structure or a two-story residence over garage structure.
Do we have
I
a s-
second.
Brooke?
Josh Wilbur,
Approve?
Thomas Stark,
Approve.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Carol Ann Rogers, and Mike Pittman.
Approve.
All right, you'll get your certificate of appropriateness in the mail, and you can begin construction based on what happens. But appreciate you bringing this and appreciate what you're doing. And thank you for investing in Madison. We're-
It's very nice and very quiet down there.
It is, I know. I just live up the street from there, so I live a little past him. So yes, it is. So keep it quiet. No, I'm just messing. Just messing. Thank you. Yeah, wait till softball season, that's all right. All right, our next application should be the Vaughn, 120 plus East Vaughn Street.
Somebody go wake up Tony Steinhardt.
No, it's not.
No, this
Tony.
isn't Tony, this might be Lisa, I'm not sure if she left.
John
it.
Heights.
Or is this
I
John?
mean, Coonsey. Sorry.
Oh, this is, yeah,
I know that they were here earlier, so my recommendation is.
we'll just wait, yep.
Push it, yeah, to the end of the meeting.
We'll wait till the end, see. All right, so let's go to the next application at 403 West First Street.
All right.
We've seen this guy before.
Yeah. Couple of times.
I think I know what house he's gonna talk about.
All right,
No, not this one, but he wanted to know for the next one.
you want to state your name and address
Louis
for us?
Joyner, representing John Morgan.
That's what I was texting.
My address is 417 7th Street, Columbus, Indiana.
All right, Brooke?
So this structure is a circa 1880 Italianate. It is a contributing structure zoned historic district residential. The COA request is to add a painted metal spiral staircase to the porch renovation project on the west side of the home, behind the porch and landscaping, making it minimally visible from the street, and to provide another means of egress from the bedroom. You can see the south side of the home, a rendering of what that spiral staircase will look like. Architectural drawings of the details of the porch, or excuse me, not the porch, the staircase. Same here. A bird's eye view of the floor plan. And that is all I have.
Louis, do you want to add anything to this?
Really, it's just a fairly modest spiral stair. We have tucked it over on the east side of the house so it's around, and so it won't be very visible from the street.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, but you're painting it such a color that as, you know, in the greenery and stuff, it's somewhat going to blend into that unless you're really looking.
Yeah.
That's on the west side, I believe, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So
And-
in one of those renderings, you could barely see it. And
yeah.
we're, it's going to be a custom stair, so it's got some little extra kind of ornamental details that are
Nice.
going to match the house.
And the height of the railing is gonna mimic the other railing in essence height-wise and stuff, okay.
Yep.
So that means it'll fit code.
But it's all metal, it's not,
Yeah. Any other questions from the board?
I just have one because I'm curious. You said you're going to add additional landscaping. I know there's a lot of landscaping over there right now.
no, we're not, I don't think we can crowd any more landscaping.
Yeah, I was wondering how you were going to do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of tucked within.
Yeah, it's
within it, yeah.
Okay.
So it's actually, we're gonna have to kind of drop it.
I was just saying, Tom, that where they're putting it, it's just gonna be
Right.
somewhat blending in, which is crazy,
Yeah.
you know, you wouldn't, but yeah, it's good architect.
I do
There's
like,
also one precedent that we found for a spiral stair on the back of the building. So,
Really?
Yeah, so, of course, it's on an alley, somewhere right over in this.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Questions, comments from the audience? All right, hearing none. Mike, you want to take us through findings of fact?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We get a lot of spiral staircases.
You know this like the back of your hand.
No, I've got it memorized. I think it's a great idea that you're doing there because it's gonna give you additional fire escape. I think that's very, and you mentioned that in your application. it's not readily visible from the street unless we have a blight and all the plants die. Staircases should not damage architectural features, which this does not. It's totally outside. Staircases either be open or enclosed. This is gonna be a nice open one. How far apart are your spindles gonna be? Gotta be
Less than, under, we'll meet the 4-inch.
No, good, because I got caught
Spiral
with
stairs
that.
are really tough to design.
I bet they
I
are,
would say,
I
yeah.
was gonna say. So don't have to worry about it, it's not enclosed, and open should be of metal and wood, which you meet that, so you meet all the criteria.
Caroline?
I agree with Michael.
Tom?
I agree for the same reasons.
Sandy?
I agree.
Owen?
I agree for the same reasons.
And I too agree for the same reasons. Accept the motion.
I make the motion that based on the proceedings, findings, facts, I move the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness for John Morgan. Excuse me, the address escapes my head.
403 West First Street.
403 West First for constructing a spiral staircase as presented.
All right. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
All right. Brooke?
Josh Wilbur,
Approve.
Thomas Stark,
Approve?
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Caroline Rogers, and Mike Pittman.
Approve.
All right. You get the COA in the mail. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Will the two new dogs be able to run up, will the two new dogs be able to run up and down that or not?
Sure. That's why he's pulling his hair out. That's, no. All right, so our next application is, he's come. So we got to go backwards. I mean, it's a $50 fee, just so you know. Yeah, so.
You missed your calling.
Oh, I did. You did. We went past it. Now we got to go backwards. Yeah. It goes to a good cause, though. Don't worry about it. Oh, I thought we were going backwards.
No, I don't think so.
He's not representing that one either? Oh,
Oh, no, I'm
man.
only representing what's up on the screen.
Okay. I thought we had you. Sorry.
That's okay.
All right, so we're going at 822 East First Street.
So the applicant is City of Madison. This property is a circa 1970 non-contributing structure, zone general business, is listed as no style with the NHL survey. Yes.
No style.
Has plastic brick.
Right? Yep.
I think it has some.
COA request is to demolish the non-historic structure.
Gosh, my
And
wife
you can
says I don't have
see,
style.
what a fine structure this is. The picture on the right, you can see some of the damage. I've zoomed in on that. The deterioration of the building, and the overall condition,
It's into the trail for this house.
and that is all I have.
Would you state your name and address, though,
Yeah,
for us?
Tony Steinhardt, Director of Economic and Redevelopment for the City of Madison. We are asking for this building to be tore down as part of the Gateway Enhancement Project with Ready Dollars. As many of you know, the Ready Dollars did not come through at the full amount, and so the project is going to eliminate the comfort station, the restrooms that were initially planned for this block. It was going to take a lot of work anyway to get that building back up to a standard that we want at our front door. So we're asking for this building to be tore down. It will be landscaped, and it'll be a small parking lot on this site as a finishing the Gateway project.
So in essence, really, the building isn't, I mean, I know you showed some deterioration, but the building probably is not so deteriorated it needs to be demolished. It's just more part of the project.
Yeah, it's a concrete
It's
block.
non-contributing to.
It's
so-
non-contributing. It's
Right.
concrete block structure covered in plastic brick currently.
Are those Legos?
It could be, yeah, it could be.
Tony, since it's not gonna be used as a comfort station, are there plans to develop that down the road, or just to keep it as open space?
Just to keep it as open space, a green lawn with some parking and landscaping in that part of the block.
Okay.
On the other side, we'll
We'll
address.
talk
that.
about we'll talk about that.
I have
Right.
they're, in the demolition of buildings, there's supposed to be notices, non-rated. Have these been done? I mean, then posted for 2 months or whatever the time frame is?
That is only applicable if the board denies a demolition
Oh,
COA.
okay.
Any other questions? Any comments, questions from the audience? All right, hearing none. Tom, you want to take us through findings of fact on this?
Sure.
Thank you.
Demolition, pages 71 and 72. Demolition may be appropriate if the building does not contribute to the historic character of the district. It obviously doesn't. Applicants for demolition should explore possibilities for selling and reusing historic buildings. This is not a historic building, so that's not relevant. We don't need to mothball it because it is not historic. Demolition may be appropriate if denial of demolition will result in demonstrable economic hardship on the owner. That's not the case here. And demolition by neglect occurs when a building is allowed to deteriorate through lack of maintenance. Again, it's not a historic building. It's a non-contributing building, and according to our guidelines, they may be demolished if the building does not contribute to the character of the district. And I think it's pretty obvious with what you guys are doing down there, what we're doing as a city, that it doesn't contribute. So I think you're in compliance with the guidelines.
Sandy?
I agree for the same reasons.
Owen?
I agree.
Mike?
I agree for the same reason.
Caroline?
I agree.
And I too agree for the same reasons. You know, it doesn't have style either, just add that, so.
Yeah.
All right. I'll accept the motion.
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to the city of Madison for the proposed demolition of a non-historic contributing structure located at 822 East First Street.
Do you have a second?
A second.
Brooke?
Josh Wilbur,
Approve.
Thomas Stark,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Carolyn Rogers,
Approve.
and Mike Pittman.
Approve.
And I would say for Nicole and Brooke, on this, I know they're counting how many demolitions we have in downtown, obviously with the surveys. I think it's important that we count how many of those were non-contributing structures as well. So that helps with understanding that of the 72 that were demolished, how many of those 72 were non-contributing, because it would be a good portion of those.
Yeah, I'm
Having
also
been.
going through and marking when, from best knowledge, they were demoed or approved to be demoed, so they'll have a more complete record.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, our next application is at 150 Harrison Street. Brooke?
So this is circa 1970, 20th century functional. It is also a non-contributing building, zone general business. Again, the COA request on this is to demolish the non-historic structure. And you can see pictures of this lovely building. And that is all I have.
This building's been lots of things.
Yeah, this building has been lots of things through the years. We hope it to be a nice grass lawn with landscaping to show off and be in the foreground of a new public art piece that will be part of Indiana and Madison's Gateway. We're teaming with the Indiana Arts Commission and Madison Area Arts Alliance. We'll be putting out a request for the Indiana artists for the three-dimensional sculpture that'll be just to the north of the site. So it'll be a nice foreground green lawn to showcase the entry into Madison and Indiana.
Nice, good. Questions, comments from the board on this one? Hearing none. Any comments, questions from the audience? All right, Sandy, you want to take us through your findings of fact?
Let's see, we can't say ditto to the last one, right?
Unfortunately, no.
Demolition is appropriate. It isn't a contributing building. It's contributed to a lot of things, but probably not.
It's not, it's a non-contributing historic structure, how about that?
Yeah. And I think that pretty much says it. If you go to the next one, the applicants for demolition, they want to put it to better use, so I think it meets the guidelines there. One.
Is there another page?
Is there another page?
No, I didn't think so.
Okay.
Owen?
I agree.
Mike?
I agree for some reason.
Carol Ann?
Absolutely, I agree.
Tom? Carol, you? Tom? do you-
Sorry, I agree.
And I agree that it's being non-contributing, that it makes sense, so. I'll accept the motion.
Based on the preceding fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant the certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of this was the 150 Harrison Street, the city of Madison.
Could I ask you to add that it's a non-historic structure to your motion?
Yes. The certificate of appropriateness for the non-historic structure at 150 Harrison Street.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Brooke?
Mike Pittman,
Approve?
Carolyn Rogers, Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Thomas Stark,
Approve.
and Josh Overland.
Approved. All right, the next application is 400 West Vaughn Drive.
This structure is a non-contributing structure zoned open space. COA request is to demolish this non-historic structure as well. Some photos of the exterior facade. And that is all I have.
Yeah, so, the commission here tonight, we were asking for what's referred to as the Crystal Beach bathhouse restrooms to be tore down. There are nicer restrooms in most county jails. These don't meet ADA, there's no way to really modify those, and with the improvements that we're doing at Crystal Beach, there's additional bathrooms that are being added that can be used at times for the public when those are open. And there are currently public restrooms 2 blocks away. And so we're asking for these to be tore down. They don't meet code or ADA, and then we'll ultimately be replacing that with landscaping and some other improvements associated with the area.
Any questions from the board? Okay, any questions, comments from the audience?
I've been talking about this bathroom for 2 years, so I'm so excited to see these things torn down. Good job, Tony.
Well, they're historic, though. I mean, you know, they're historic bathrooms, you know.
Concrete block. You know, with everything going on with Crystal Beach, I mean, it is an eyesore.
Put it up
So,
by
Yeah.
the bridge.
It'll be nice
You
to
got
see
your
it gone.
rest, comfort
Yes,
station.
I agree with all them. All right, Owen, you want to take us through the
Okay.
findings of fact?
Well, I already read all this, but it's, we can demolish it because it's not contributing. It's not possible to use it for anything else. It's, will not result in economic hardship to the owner. It's not deteriorated due to lack of maintenance, so it's just, no reason to keep it around. I think demolishing it will be completely within the guidelines.
Okay. Mike?
I agree for the same reason, but I also add that you're adding additional bathrooms to Crystal Beach to offset what we're losing there, so I think that's.
Yeah, the bathrooms will be open at certain times of the year for additional capacity.
That's great.
As requested. It's been designed so that the bathrooms can be opened and not the whole facility.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yep. Carol Ann?
I agree.
Tom?
Agree for the same reasons.
Sandy?
Agree.
I too agree. Accept the motion?
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to demolish the structure at 400 West Vaughn Drive.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Brooke?
Josh Wilbur,
Approve?
Thomas Stark,
Approve.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Carolyn Rogers, and Mike Pittman.
Approve.
All right, Tony, you got them all. I'm still going to keep the $50 fee in place, so.
Please do that. Settle up later.
All right, thank you. All right, on to the next application. It is 701 Broad Street. Broadway Street, Broadway Street. I'm starting to get tired. It's Monday. Thank you for being patient. I know this has been a long meeting for you, so. You- Oh, well, there you go. Well, let's just lengthen it out a little more for you.
Let's get the other people in first.
Take us to dinner.
Do you like to state your name and address?
My name is Katie Mason. I am here representing Sonorama Dixie. We're in Louisville, Kentucky. Our address is 4436 Dixie Highway
All right.
in Louisville, Kentucky.
All right, thank you. Brooke?
This application is concerning an 1878, 19th century functional building, which is contributing. It's zoned Central Business District. The COA request is to install signage at several Norton KDH properties, or King's Daughter's House, sorry, I should say that fully. And then this is one of the proposed signs. It's a 59 by 59 freestanding.
Brooke, is this the one that will go at 701 Broadway?
Yes.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
It looks much better than that picture, I guarantee.
And then, we have pictures of other signs as well. The Operations Center, the one on the right, is the one we're looking at. And that is all I have.
Is the one on the right the 59 by 59?
No, this,
That one
this
is the
slide
59?
is the 59
Okay.
by 59.
Is that the same size as the sign that is there now that
That's
says
what I was gonna
KDH?
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you.
So this is just replacing the sign that's there with the
Yes,
same,
we're
same
going
size
around
lettering?
And replacing all the signs that are there, with Norton.
Right.
King's Daughter's Health colors and updating everything to their fonts and all that.
How many colors?
How many colors?
Yeah.
It is
Three?
gray, blue logo, white lettering.
Okay,
Very nice.
So mainly the logo is the coloring.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just the blue logo.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a suggestion? We consider all the sign changes at the same time. They're all gonna be same size as what's currently there? Same type lettering? We got, what,
You
four
talk-
applications, three
We
applications?
have we got 701 Broadway Street and we got 630,
Three, 630 Broadway
I
and,
got two on mine.
So there are two, because
Two, that's right.
looking at 600 West,
Uh-huh.
I was able to do a staff approval on that, and the COAs have been mailed out to you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so we just got 701 Broadway Street and we have 630 Broadway Street.
Perfect. The only thing that is different is at 701 Broadway, the current sign that is, there's not a picture of that one up there. There's a current sign on the building.
On the building, yeah.
Yeah, and we are replacing it with a new one that will be illuminated.
Oh,
Oh. And which built on 701 on Broadway? Okay,
Internally or externally?
Internally illuminated.
That's against the guidelines.
also,
did you know that?
And it's not the entire sign that's illuminated, it's just the lettering. So
Right.
it's an aluminum box that has acrylic push-through lettering, and the lettering is illuminated. Which can be changed.
Yeah, no, that was not on the.
yeah.
So that wasn't on the original application. This is new that you're adding to. I mean, you can
I
add
think it said illuminated.
for some reason. I don't remember seeing that either. Let me look.
I have it on my application right here.
Alright, if it is mounted on a building and it's not a freestanding, an ordinance does allow for illumination. Because it can be illuminated or non-illuminated on ordinance. I can pull this ordinance up if you'd like. But I'm pulling this because. Yes,
So when we say illuminated, we're always meaning internally illuminated, right? I mean, you can always externally illuminate any sign, right? You can put a spotlight on
Right.
it, so that's.
so the ordinance actually, and that one has already been, approved with a COA.
Oh, that was approved.
So.
For internal lighting, Brooke?
Okay, hold on. So it's a dimensional surface sign. Ordinance states, I'm trying to read it. Yep, each sign, number 4, 15136B4, each sign may appear without illumination or may be illuminated. Lighting source design and placement must be as unobtrusive as possible, and the proposed method of lighting is also subject to
So that sounds like you're talking about external illumination.
It says unobtrusive as possible, it doesn't say where.
So that implies external, not internal.
I don't know about that. I don't think it implies anything.
The ordinance does not specify internal, external, it just says the placement must be as unobtrusive as possible.
So internal, probably the less obtrusive.
But I thought we had an ordinance specifically against internally illuminated
That is
signs.
for a different type of signage. Our ordinance breaks it down into different types of signs.
So that's for a freestanding
This is for
sign?
a dimensional circus sign.
Oh, okay.
So what you're thinking of is for a different sign
I
type.
see, okay.
These signs that are freestanding, these posts and panels, they will not be illuminated.
You're just talking, the only sign that's illuminated is the one that's gonna be
Yes.
on the,
This-
attached to the
this one
building.
That is attached to the building.
Yeah.
That's the only
So
one.
at 701, there are all the blue, Colorado blue spruce on the south side between the building and the street. So this sign will be on the east side elevation of that building?
I believe so. All the signs are going in the exact same spots that are in.
So for the Historic Board of Review, the only sign you have jurisdiction over are the freestanding signs. All other signs have been approved.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
Yes, so we're just considering these others.
okay.
Okay,
We got one sign now.
But we still need to consider square footage of each sign, right?
right.
Okay.
And it's
So
the
both
current,
of these violate that.
but the current signs that are there that they are replacing are the same, my understanding are the same square footage. Same square footage, not saying it's, okay or not okay. Just saying that they're just replacing what is already there.
Basically, what's there, we're reskinning it.
Yes. So a prior board obviously allowed it, and now it's on us to whether or not we want to continue to allow it or not. Other questions? It's a good question, though. Any comments, questions from the audience? All right, hearing none. Mike,
You want me to take this one?
you want to take this one?
Fire it away.
Do it.
Commercial buildings traditionally have had a variety of signs, designs, and placements, as so has KDH and Norton's, obviously. New signs should be of traditional materials, wood, glass, copper, or bronze. Letters. These are metal signs, if I'm not correct.
They are.
Okay. Which doesn't really fit that, but you're just replacing what is already there.
Yes, we,
Signs should be sized in proportion to the building, which the size of these buildings, I think they are proportional. They're bigger than our ordinance, I believe, is that correct? That's why they're sitting, that's why they're before.
Some of them are.
Yeah. But signs are the same size as what's currently being replaced. Avoid oversized signs, which I think these aren't billboards. Buildings should have no more than 3 signs. You're not gonna put 3 of these signs up on any one building, are you?
No.
Okay. Signs that resemble logos or symbols are encouraged, and you obviously have that. Is Norton's gonna have their logo on it? I assume they are.
They are.
Signs should have no more than 3 colors, which I don't believe these do. Traditional lettering, which I do believe they have. How big are the letters? I guess that's the next question.
that's a good question. Nope, it's not the right time. The letters seem to be around 4 or 5 inches tall.
Well, that's no problem at all, then.
18 inches is pretty big.
Pretty big, yeah.
That's what.
And you're placing them where the current signs are being placed?
Yes.
And I don't think, that is an issue for me, so I think it meets the guidelines.
Caroline? Tom?
I agree for the same reasons.
Sandy?
I agree for the same reasons.
Owen?
Well, I think sign number 1 looks good and sign number 3 looks good, but sign number 2 is too big. It's more than 24 square feet.
Is that the one on 701 or the one on?
We're only talking about 701 at the
701, yeah,
moment,
that's what I
right?
wanna make sure.
So, yeah, that's they were listed, and so the second one in order in the proposal, the second one is bigger than 24 square feet. So to me, that violates the guidelines.
Can you show the second one again, please? It's that one.
And then, just to show for reference, that's same size as.
That's what's currently there.
And that's your business office, correct? Is that still the business office?
It's coming right down Broadway.
And that one is 59 by 59?
And that's where most people go to get their bills straightened out and things like that, because I've been in there getting my bill straightened out, so I think it's a good idea to have a big sign down there.
So, okay, so your, Owens, your take, it's not.
It's not.
Okay. I agree with Owen on that it's not in conformance. I know it's, replacing really what's there. So, you know, I guess I'd have to agree on that part of it. At this point, we'll accept a motion.
Based on the preceding finding of facts, I move that the Madison Historic District grant a certificate of appropriateness for, let me make sure I get the billing right. We're just doing 701?
Yes, 701.
701 Fifth Street.
Broadway.
701 Broadway, sorry, but it's on Fifth Street too. 701
It is.
Broadway for the sign as presented,
Well, 3 signs.
three signs
Three signs.
as presented.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second
All right. Brooke?
Mike Pittman,
Approve.
Carolyn Rogers, Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Owen McCall,
Do not approve.
Thomas Stark,
Approve.
and Josh Wilbur.
Approved. All right, next application is 630 Broadway Street. Isn't it? Let me see. That's the doctor's office.
So this project, this building is a non-contributing building, zoned Central Business District. COA request is to install signage at several Norton KDH properties and locations. You can see example of the signage. That is all I have.
Questions on this? I'd say that, the same things come up here. We got a sign that's more than the 16 feet. Again, replacing one that's already more than 16 feet with
In
this
this
too.
case, 2 of the 3 are
Two
too
or
big.
three, yeah, right. I should have said signs, I'm sorry. So,
Can I speak on these?
go ahead, please.
And I do want to make mention that what we were actually proposing on doing is taking out the actual panel that says Downtown Medical Building, reusing the same posts, repainting them, and putting a new sign with new lettering over top of it.
A
So
new
we
metal
are
sign.
reusing the existing posts that are there and replacing it with a panel of the same size.
Still, according to our guy,
Anything
our,
that can help.
yes, I understand, I appreciate it. It's just something that's been there, obviously, now we're looking at it again, so.
So when people are referred, I assume they're gonna be sent to the Downtown Medical Building, that's what they're gonna be looking for. So the sign being bigger is not really a hindrance, it's more of a help for the people looking
Yeah,
for the
it
Downtown
really
Medical
is.
Building.
Plus considering the address at the bottom of it, you have to make the sign so big to make that address so big so people can't see it. Because there is no real address that you can tell
Right.
on the building.
Yeah, that's a good point. Other questions, comments? Comments from the audience? All right, hearing none. Tom, you want to do findings of fact on this one?
Sure.
Last one?
Okay, so, commercial guidelines, pages 48 to 51. As we said earlier, the signs are gonna be made of metal with acrylic, lettering. Lettering is consistent with our, guidelines. Color coordinated sign placed in traditional location, I believe that is in compliance. And while two of the three signs are outside of our, what is compliant with our guidelines, you are just replacing the same size sign within the space. So I believe that we can go ahead and move forward. I think you're in compliance.
Sandy?
I agree for the same reasons.
Owen?
I do not agree.
Mike?
I agree for the same reasons.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah. I agree exactly for why Tom said it. So that, accept a motion.
So this is for the two, right?
This is for the 630 Broadway Street.
Okay.
The three, yep, there's
Yeah.
three.
And it's just one sign or two?
Three signs.
Okay, all three signs.
Yep.
Okay, I thought one was at 701.
We already did 701.
I know, but, so there's four signs total?
Six.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
six,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's confusing.
Okay, based on, go ahead.
I only have two signs at seven.
Oh, it's because that illuminated, so it was two at 701. We were counting.
That's what I thought. Yeah, okay.
She's gonna sell another sign.
Tried to give her a chance.
Are you ready for me to
Yes.
roll? Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Signorama Dixie for the proposed application to install a new sign made of metal and acrylic or vinyl, sized approximately to the specifications as determined by the application and historic guidelines, located at 630 Broadway.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Brooke?
Josh Wilbur,
Approve?
Thomas Stark,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Do not approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Carol Ann Rogers, and Mike Pittman.
Approve.
All right, you'll get the certificate of appropriateness letters in the mail, and you guys can begin work as long as you got, I don't think they'll need building permits for signs. I don't.
That will be up to the building inspector.
So
So,
you'll have to check with them.
yeah, check with the building inspector on
Okay.
that.
It's two signs,
But,
isn't it?
All right, thank you, guys.
thank you.
Two on the 701, three on the. All right, with that, so we are at the end of our applications.
No,
We have one more.
We have
we
the
have that one more.
Riverfront
Riverfront.
Development.
Well, I know, but we don't have anybody here.
Did Josh Coonsey leave?
John Heights isn't here, so,
Okay.
seeing that no one is here for it, I would move to table this application. Huh?
You don't need to move, it's incomplete.
It's just incomplete, so we just move on? Okay, all right. Sorry, I'm so used to planning commission, we do that, so. All right. Any new business? I don't think that we have any new business.
Yep. Somebody's waving.
Oh, we do. Oh, in the back, sorry.
I promise this will be very quick.
Yeah.
I'm Jan Beatrice, 701 East Second Street. I have been doing, like I mentioned earlier with the other folks, a bunch of research on the property owners among the free black community in Madison from the 1820s through the 1850s. And I have come across some new information that one of the homes that has been approved for demolition might actually belong to one of our most famous Underground Railroad conductors. I don't know that for a fact. I do know for a fact that he owned the lot. And so I would ask before the property at 707 is demolished,
707 what?
Walnut Street,
Walnut Street, okay.
that we do a thorough structures, whatever, to make sure it was built modern and is not the actual property of the
Underground Railroad conductors. So dendrochronology, we have folks at Hanover that do that, at least get photos of the interior, the structure. I understand that it is not in a good condition. I appreciate that, but we have got to document it because this is one of the conductors that actually made Georgetown part of the National Park Service, would have been the original National Historic Landmark District. So it's really critical new information.
Jan, do you think the home is more modern than probably what would have been there, or are you not sure?
I don't think so. As the consultants were saying, they just do drive-bys,
True.
and so.
Well, they I think they walked it, actually.
Well, but
Yeah.
it's still, it has modern vinyl siding on it.
True.
So we have no idea when that house, it looks from the 1854 plat map to match the size, and it is a frame structure.
Okay.
So it's really, really important that we get that documented.
Jan,
Thank
is this the house that has a slight lean to it on the east
No,
side?
this is on the west side of Walnut Street,
Okay.
707. It's 2 up from the liquor store at Fifth and Walnut.
Okay.
So,
So has that been condemned by the
It
building
evident-
inspector because of the
Yes.
unsafe structure?
Yes, it has.
Okay, so really we don't have anything to say about that. That is kind of a trump
it's the
card for us.
documentation
No,
that
she's just
I'm
asking.
really
Yeah.
Yeah.
begging you for. And I was hoping that in your new guidelines, that you would have some documentation requirements for any demolition in the historic district.
Good.
The one
Well
on
noted.
St. Michael's should have been documented. I mean, there's, we're constantly doing new research, and I just found this out in the last couple of weeks, so.
No, appreciate it very
Yeah.
much, and we've noted, and staff can take that up, or certainly with the mayor and building inspector and see.
As the regulatory arm of historic preservation, I'm not sure what duty it is of the city. It sounds like that would be a better fit for an advocacy or one of the other historic preservation nonprofits to document that. Our agreement with the Historical Society a couple years ago on documentation they took on that duty, not city staff.
Yeah, I thought History Center just does this routinely, don't they?
What I'm asking for is that before a building is demolished, we wouldn't even know when it was gonna be demolished.
Yeah, but you're wanting to have some pictures and documentation that way,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I don't
that's-
have a problem with asking people in the community to do the documentation. What I have a problem with is that you go ahead and demolish before the documentation is done. And I do think that's a city responsibility. I'll be happy to talk to the mayor.
Yeah, it's no problem. I just,
But if the building inspector has said, I'm declaring this an unsafe structure, therefore, it needs to be demolished, doesn't that also mean I will not allow someone to go inside because he might get crushed when it falls on him?
So before that demolition permit is given, as part of the historic district and an incredibly important house nationally, we need to have it documented. And I don't see how anybody can do that without the power of the government to do it.
Okay.
It can't be left to just individuals.
How much time are you needing, Jan, to document?
I didn't know until I called today that it was, I knew it had been approved for demolition, but I didn't know I still don't know when it's actually scheduled, but it
But
could be
as-
very quickly.
But as a general rule, you can't just make a blanket statement that says you're gonna delay until.
Oh, no, I
something's
wouldn't say to
documented.
delay it.
What-
I'm just
yeah, How
saying
much time does it take to do this documentation? I guess that's what I'm getting to.
probably a couple days. I mean, the research documentation,
no, he's
As-
talking about like going in
yeah.
and doing the pictures and making,
Exactly.
yeah.
Doing the wood samples.
but I would think that the documentation should be done before it's demolished if it's in the historic district and considered
Well,
important.
if it's an unsafe structure, especially if it's.
I can't just
near-
go, I just can't walk on the property and do it.
Right,
That's
but-
what I'm
well,
saying.
and we can't either, and.
Right.
and the
But
bottom
the
line
building
is, though,
inspector could
if
and,
it's- but if
and
it's-
city
but if
staff
it's-
could.
But if it's an unsafe structure and he deems it so, every day that building stands is a liability for not only who goes in it, but also the city and anyone around it. So I think it's real important that
That it
if
happened very
If you want
quickly.
this certain thing
Well,
put
I
in,
think-
well, excuse me.
Yeah.
You want this certain thing put in the ordinance, you need to say, okay, within 5 days of finding out we're having
That's fine,
demolition,
whatever,
we'll have it done.
right, whatever.
Okay.
But I think it just needs to be part of, you
Sure.
don't just tear down a building without documenting the,
All right, thank you. It's
Thank you.
definitely noted. Thank you.
thanks.
Any other new business? All right, old business. We do have some things on there. We have we have design guideline updates that have been put out for the community to read and look at. This session right now is for the community to voice any concerns, support, comments they have over the proposed design guidelines. We will not, as a board, answer those. We will be providing our comments in the July meeting, and we will also be having the company who helped us draft these design guidelines come to our July meeting as well to help answer questions, provide feedback to why some of the design guide, or actually all the design guidelines they put in. So there'll be a more comprehensive meeting next time. But this is certainly going to be a point where the community come up. You can ask questions. Of course, if you ask a question, it'll just be a question that we will move on to the authors of the proposed design guidelines. Again, the board won't answer those. We'll just be listening. So with that, Jan, come on up. I see you're moving up. So
I mean, that was what I thought was gonna be at the beginning, but,
Yeah.
if you could, Nicole, make that much more, accessible to the public.
Okay.
Because I tried to find it before the meeting and couldn't find it anywhere, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
It's
So,
posted in multiple places on the city's website, and I've mentioned it at several public meetings that a hard copy was available at the office.
Okay,
I'm not
well,
sure
I've
how
not-
more accessible it can be.
well.
Do you want a hard copy?
It was not on the agenda for tonight to just click to the link. But yeah, if there's a hard copy, it'd be
Okay.
great. But I had several people asking me, well, where are they? And I couldn't find them on Facebook, I couldn't find
The
them on the
office
city stuff.
received zero communication about not being able to find.
Probably
the
because
guidelines.
they didn't even know they were out there.
It's all right.
so.
I appreciate
Anyway,
appreciate
it
the
would
comment.
just appreciate it, because I do know there are people that, well, and that was actually my demolition thing was supposed to be part of the guidelines.
It's all right. That's what I figured. We'll
Yeah.
because you made comment to that, and so that'll get brought into that. No problem. Thank you. I figure you're coming up, Ken. So,
Mr. and Mrs. Community. Ken McWilliams, 315 Poplar. And last September, Nicole asked me to look at the two applications to redo the guidelines. And I enthusiastically supported the Thompson group out in Nashville, because versus the other group, they were way less boilerplate than the Pennsylvania group. Can't tell you how disappointed I am with what they've delivered. So Indianapolis has 13 separate historic districts. Bloomington has 13 separate historic districts. Homogeneous neighborhoods opting in to get protected by guidelines. We have an entire town captured with historic guidelines. And as we learned just tonight, 26% of our properties are non-contributing. And so there's no way you can have language like not approvable for any product in the guidelines. It's just, you just can't cover this town like that. And so that's just a big piece that there, to me, that it should have an entire section on non-contributing in our guidelines and the protection and obligation of those homeowners. So that's a piece that's missing. Oh, yeah. No, this is where Ms. Cruciale would say thank you.
well, I didn't know if you had more.
Well, I do, but I knew you were looking.
Okay,
But
sorry.
Yes, so 3 years ago, the board had 3 open meetings where we talked about guidelines. And the mayor was part of the rabble, Mike was part of the rabble, I was, and Josh and Owen were the only board members here, and Nicole was commander-in-chief. But I remember 2 things that came up often, and that the mayor was very emphatic about alleys having equal mention with streets. That in the 2 years I was on the board, I never had a Q alley come into play in any of the applications.
A what now again? Okay.
cute alleys.
Okay, gotcha.
That anyone that wanted to build stuff had tons of vinyl, garages next door and across, and there was never something, or it was a commercial alley, just, as you know, our back ends of our Main Street buildings are just a disaster. And so, to me, alleys should not have the same consideration as streets. Another piece that always came up was, Mike always talked about this, maybe it was me, is that there's never enough, there's never enough talk about or room for technology and change. So under the lighting thing, there's no mention of motion, video, and where you can put those on your buildings. And I think we're way past beyond people not putting video, recording, and ring type devices on their buildings. But there's no mention of that in the guidelines. Moving on, solar. We're also proud they had a section on solar. If you want to know where solar is going very quickly, go to Tesla solar roofs. So every illustration they have under the residential section is ancient technology already. So very soon, the individual tiles are going to be solar collectors. It's going to totally change how that industry, should anyone ever be able to make one, and it pass, get it away from the Chinese. But the chimneys, say thank you.
Thank you.
Chimneys. So what we discovered in Jerome's last comment as a board member, in my daughter's house across the street, is that we have all these modern chimneys in town. There needs to be a separate section on forced air HVAC chimneys from the 70s. And that's how all that chimney was 40 to 50 years old. So, my HVAC guy, Danny, said, the first forced air system in Madison was in the 1950s. Most were in the 1970s. So that's how recent those forced air chimneys, where they evacuated all the exhaust, that's how recent they are. So they should be torn down.
Are you done? I'm going to say thank you once you're done.
No, say thank you and go home, Ken.
No, I won't do that. Are you done?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yes, I'm done.
I don't want to do that to you. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate the comments. Thank you. Any other comments? All right. Appreciate it, and we appreciate the comments from the public, and of course, we will continue to accept comments online via public comments if public wants to do that. Again, they should be available on the Madison City's website, as well as a hard copy can be requested from the city office, and they will provide a hard copy to any.
Won't be providing a hard copy because it's.
Oh, I thought you said.
We have one available for review.
For review, okay,
Yep.
sorry.
'Cause
My
it's,
fault.
Yeah, 100 plus
It's 100 plus pages,
It's
okay.
a lot to print.
Sure, got a point. So,
Are we still on old business?
we are still on old business right
Got
now.
some old business.
You have some old business, okay.
Got some old business.
Or is it, I just want to make sure, I think we're done with the public comments for that section. Okay. All right, Mike?
This is old business. This relates to the project that was presented back in November 22nd, 2021. Talked about it last time, I believe. And I don't know if any of you have been by the 701 First Street property, 701 West First Street. But what was presented was if you remember, it was retaining wall. This is what was presented as the, remember that one?
Yeah.
If you look now, it's now a rock wall that has been put around it. Plus, there's also 3 temporary storage structures sitting on the area, along with I think there's 3 or 4 55-gallon drums sitting in the open. So, and and I won't, basically, it doesn't concern this board, but basically, the excavation has taken the structure or the lot elevation down to about anywhere between 4 to 6 feet below the base flood elevation. And I believe the city ordinance is you have to be 2 foot above the base flood elevation on any structure, on any lot that's in the flood fringe. And this is obviously, these do not meet that. They're sitting right on the ground. So we've got some significant issues with that piece of property. Here's a little bit better close-up. This was kind of intermediate to this was before the big, I forget what you call that big rock. But anyway, riprap, that's it. Thank you, sir. Riprap, plus they've also dumped creek stone and riprap into the alley, so it's really not even passable anymore. So I think there's some significant issues there, and I don't know what we're gonna do about it.
But I think for us, this board, though, the problem we have is they have a year to actually comply with the application that they provided us.
But they've got structures on there they did not apply for, plus they put the riprap on there, which was not even brought up. And obviously, that's intended to stay, well, I would assume it's intended to stay. You're not gonna,
But they would have until November, I think, is when
I don't know.
I think it is a year to take it out and make it what they put in the application. If not, then they would be in non-compliance of that. Now, the structures, I'd have to look to the city for, their guidance, and of course, as you said, the elevation is more city, ordinance and not this board, obviously, on that. So what's the advice?
I have sent multiple violation letters regarding the unapproved structures.
Okay.
We've gotten no response. At the direction and request of this board, you asked, I believe it was 60 days ago, to send a letter to ask them to respond with intentions of what they plan to do within 30 days. No response to that as well. I do know that, that was discussed somewhat in the executive session earlier.
Yeah. It was.
But that's where we're at.
Are we-
It's the same things we've discussed with that.
Are we at a point on the temporary structures to ask our attorney to send a letter? Nicole? I think, how many letters have you sent? You said 3?
3.
3, Brooke? I would suggest, and the board, you guys can say differently, I suggest our city attorney send them a letter now.
I agree.
You, any dissent to do any agreement? Okay, so let's have Devin or our attorney, whoever.
Board attorney.
Board attorney, submit a letter to them.
Asking them.
Asking the same, basically stating that the buildings are in violation, and then also what their intent is, based on the work that's being done. Anything else, Mike?
And I assume, I would ask them too what their intent is with that alley. We got a gentleman with his hand raised.
Oh, yes, come on.
Mr. Wickens.
Charles Ricketts. I live next door to the Grand Canyon.
Can you state your actual address though?
707 West First Street.
Thank you.
I didn't come here intending to talk tonight. I didn't know this was going to be brought up.
Right.
I just came in as an observer. My only comment is in regards to the alley, it's platted out to be 12 feet wide, and they have encroached to the point of about 4 feet. So it's hardly navigable for a golf cart, let alone a vehicle.
And you can't
That's a
walk
good
down
point.
it anymore either.
No,
Break an
it's
ankle.
too rough to walk through there, and even to drive through with a golf cart, you risk damaging your tires.
Yeah.
So, and they are in the process, as I observed, of replacing a lot of the edging around their plants with creek rock, which they have dumped in the alleys to use. And if they start putting the creek rock out into the alley to outline their beds, why, that's another thing to consider.
Could cause a water.
They wanted to close that alley, and the Board of Public Works and Safety would not let them close it for safety reasons, among other reasons.
I'm unfamiliar with the direction. Is the alley east-west?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's right behind the lumber mill.
So it runs right behind your home and?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the
And
lumber mill.
was it up to this point usable, the alley?
With the golf carts, you could get through there.
Okay,
It's supposed to be 12 feet wide, and it's about 8 feet.
okay.
So they've got 4 feet of planting and landscaping out into the alley.
So this, is more of a city, I mean, obviously it's not a historic board issue, but, the city certainly,
So what, I had received a complaint on that, I believe it was early last week. I went out and took a photo. It's not, a historic board issue because it
Right.
wasn't alley. The way it was called in was a violation, historic board violation, so I went and looked
Got
at it. I spoke to, Gina with the street department, gave her the photographs, emailed her. She said it was not a street department issue, but she said it was a nuisance issue, so the email got forwarded to our code enforcement officer. And that's,
interesting.
to my knowledge, that was the last I've heard about it. I don't know where it's at this point.
So I would say, Mr. Ricketts, I would call Jan, what's her full name?
Gina Center with the street department.
Janice Center, I would call her.
Okay. While I'm up here,
Go ahead.
I was going to just talk to Brooke. It's apparent from watching the proceedings that the cart is put in front of the horse quite frequently here. People do things and then they come to ask your forgiveness.
Yeah.
I don't know how you monitor things that are going on in the city. You don't have spies, so to speak, but I was having some work done recently at my house, and the contractors happened to mention that he had a contract to put all new windows in the Lanthier Winery.
Thank you.
So I don't know.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Very much.
I'm sure she follows the guidelines when
Oh, yeah.
No comment.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other old business? All right, go to staff report.
All right. If you don't mind, let me just make a little note.
No, you're fine. Go
of
ahead.
that real quick, so. All right, sorry, I just wanted to make a note, so I'll remember to keep an eye on things. All right, so, June has been a busy, busy month. We had Brian and Tara Pierce at 1107 West Main, COA for the siding. I did have conditions on there. Mary Ann Jacobs at 923 West Main, replace vinyl siding with LP Smart lap siding. Jody Bennett at 102 Walnut Street, replace sliding garage doors to replicate historic appearance. Install wood windows on the garage, replace garage and porch shingle roof with a standing seam metal roof. J. Michael and Starla Rayleigh at 427 Mulberry, replace circa 1930 wood windows with aluminum clad windows of 4-4 on front top, 2-2 in front bottom, 1 more on the remaining facade, and that is to restore the original historic appearance of the pane configuration of the windows. John and Melanie Harrell at 313 West Third to remove existing screen door and replace with a full view glass storm door. Remove existing non-historic metal garage door and replace with a new metal garage door. Signorama Dixie at 701 Broadway, install a 42-inch by 84-inch aluminum sign with vinyl letters flat on the building. A 24-inch by 24-inch freestanding aluminum sign on existing frame with 12-inch by 12-inch surveillance sign mounted below, and that does include the illuminated sign. Signorama Dixie at 600 West Street, install 48 by 96, a 36 by 60, and a 24 by 24 aluminum sign with acrylic letters flat on the building. Signorama Dixie at 630 North Broadway Avenue to install 6 12 by 18-inch, 24 by 36-inch, and 3 24 by 24 aluminum signs with vinyl letters flat on the building or freestanding. Sandra Bailey at 736 West 3rd Street to remove canvas awnings, replace 14-foot wood picket fence with a wrought iron fence, replace front porch and rear porch deck wood floor with composite deck flooring, add a wrought iron handrail on the front porch, Historic Madison,
So
Inc.
did she replace that with a 14-foot iron fence too?
Yes,
Wow.
yes. Yeah, 14 foot long.
Oh, long. I was like,
Oh,
like
no,
holy
no, sorry.
crud.
Yeah, sorry. I try to abbreviate on these things because you can see it's a lot, and I'm not trying to do
Yeah.
200 slides. So sorry about that. Yes, it is
I
long.
didn't say.
No, sorry.
all right.
HMI 118 West Third Street, install a salvage historic iron fence on the south side of the property along Third Street frontage to restore the historic appearance. Dwight Lindsay at 719 West Second Street, install either LP Smart siding or hardy board siding over existing asbestos siding, that is with conditions. Sinorama Dixie at 201 Milton Street, remove existing maintenance sign and replace it with a new aluminum panel sign, non-illuminated. Replace 2 no parking signs with 2 new 12 by 18 inch no parking signs. Chris Heights at 323 Mulberry Street, install a 25 by 48 inch internally illuminated projecting sign. Sinorama Dixie at 621 West Street, to remove an existing fence sign and replace with a 36 by 60 inch aluminum welded box sign with half-inch acrylic letters. All right, so June 2020, I can't even talk now, June 2021 COA review. Gary Zaveri at 831 East Main, approval to install a 5-foot by 6-foot freestanding sign on the hill. That has been done. Howard and Lisa Cutshaw at 907 and 909 West Second, received approval for vinyl windows on the sides and rear. However, they installed aluminum clad instead. Jacqueline Madison, 219 to 21 Walnut Street, demolish a rear chimney. That has been done. Dave Patterson, 107 East Fifth Street, build a porch the same length of home. That is in progress. Riverside Group LLC, Lisa Hammock at 1128 West Second Street, to demolish home and garage, and that has been done. And that is all I have.
Any questions for Brooke?
Well, I've got one question.
All right.
As Mr. Ricketts noted, we're getting a lot of cart before the horses applications. Would it make sense not to call them applications, but to call them violation review? Or, because, I mean, they're not really applications.
So the current way that that's handled is when I notice an in-progress project, I make contact with the homeowner or the contractor, typically both, if there is a contractor. I do send out a violation letter, and our violation letter, the way it is worded, asks that person to contact the office and to put in an application. That really, I mean, ultimately, although the project has been started and/or possibly completed, it is my belief that it would still need to, an application would still need to follow to come to the board. If it's in progress,
Yeah, I think they would still have to submit an application, but I would rather not call it an application, because it's like saying, we're gonna forgive you, we're gonna allow you to make an application.
but our ordinance does not allow for anything other than application. Like, ordinance doesn't say,
Well, how about if you put a stop work order?
I do not have the authority to do that. I can refer it to the building inspector to do that.
And we're not gonna really be able to stop this waterfall of projects being done, and then coming, before, the board, for approval, until we get that ordinance put into place.
You got it. So Tom, I think that's the key, is that the ordinance is being looked at as well. City's redoing the ordinance. Certainly, not even as just a board member, but certainly as a community member, you can make your voice heard on what you'd like to have in that ordinance for violations such as these. And then that would give some teeth to the city to actually take some type of action, whether that's with the contractor or with a resident that is doing these blatantly, certainly with, knowing. So
Is there a time frame where the city's supposed to be?
the city's currently working on it, Brooke.
Yes.
Or, not Nicole, I meant, sorry.
We've drafted revisions previously, so I've given those to Brooke to look over, and then we'll start the public process of getting board comments and public comments on revisions before it goes before you all for final review.
Right.
So the guidelines are being done right now. It's a little bit before the cart before the horse on that too, because the ordinance is going to be in place for the guidelines to actually reflect what the ordinance is going to do. So we're kind of, both are being done simultaneously right now, but
The guidelines support the ordinance, but
Certainly.
nothing in the guidelines would affect an ordinance change.
Correct.
'Cause
no, but
they're
an ordinance
based-
change can affect the guidelines.
Not necessarily, because they're more based
Why?
off of what's required by state code, which we can't change. So the visual inspection of,
Okay.
changes in the district, that's what they're based off of.
All right.
Like Nicole's saying, we're bound by state enabling legislation on historic district ordinance. So there are things that we must follow, that we don't have an option with, and that does not impact
Certainly,
our
there's things, I
guidelines.
understand that, there's things that we must follow, but there are things such as what we're talking about with putting things in for violations and fines that could happen because of those violations that could be additional. And of course, you know, it may be incumbent on this board that the city of Madison, you know, might be looking at this board to help them and, you know, issuing those fines or coming to a finding that it's in violation.
Right, but violations are not addressed in guidelines. So again, it doesn't. one
Not
does
ever, or
impact.
not ever? So they would be addressed in the ordinance?
I've not seen those guidelines.
Okay.
They're kind of your playbook of, okay, we're gonna review X, Y, and Z. The board's not gonna review what fines are established. If we can even do that, we'll have to look at state
Right.
code to
Right.
see if we can even do that.
Okay, all right.
Just a question.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Oh, let's hang on. I move we adjourn.
All right, to get a second, all right, all in favor, say aye. Aye, we're done. Not too bad, board, for as many applications we had, and the couple of extras, so, yeah. Okay.
Tell me voted and they lost.
You voted it down.
They voted it down.
You weren't here.
You weren't here, man.
You can't build it.
Good job tonight. Nobody beat anybody up.